My wife is choosing to go to a rave instead of flying to me and seeing my mom who's currently dying. So as a result, I crashed out on Instagram, putting her on blast and basically exposing her for being a terrible wife. And now I'm not sure what to do, and I'm just not sure if I took things too far. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom has been battling cancer for the second time since January and has been slowly deteriorating. And my wife and I have been on terrible terms for the past year. We've discussed divorce, but recently agreed to try one last time to try and make it work. Well, in March, I moved from Seattle back to Missouri to help my mom with chemo, radiation, and around the house, and my wife and I thought the space might help us work through our issues. Well, this week everything fell apart. My mom went from mobile to needing a cane, a walker, a wheelchair, and then became nonverbal with word salad. And late Friday night, she was rushed to the ER. My wife saw a video of her babbling the same gibberishing phrase over and over, and it was clearly bad. And eventually, she was admitted to the ICU. Doctors found an aggressive new brain tumor that's been growing rapidly, causing bleeding and swelling. Early yesterday, we learned there's nothing more they can do. She's not a surgical candidate. I mean, this is the end. She was supposed to get married today to her boyfriend of 14 years, but that's not happening. We had even been planning for my wife to fly out this weekend for the wedding. Despite my mom's rapid decline over the past 2 weeks, my wife kept pushing her trip back to later this month because she had tickets to a rave in Washington with a girl she's only hung out with like 4 times. Instead of canceling and flying to be with me during this nightmare, instead she went to the rave. I'm suffering here completely alone while she's partying with a near stranger. I received no phone call yesterday, just a few "oh, I'm sorry for your mom" and "I'm sorry you're hurting" text messages. And you know what? I completely crashed out. I've never posted about my personal life on social media, but I was so hurt and isolated that I made Instagram stories asking for advice on losing a parent and just overall dealing with this betrayal. She reacted with, "oh, nice post." And before that, I had told her how devastated I was that she chose the rave. I eventually got more empty apologies that never actually took responsibility. Just her saying, "oh, I'm sorry you're hurt by this," with a lot of excuses and deflection. That's pretty typical if I'm being honest. I always own my mistakes and apologize when I'm a piece of crap, but guess what? She never does. I then ended up putting her on blast in a couple more stories, and I'm honestly just grieving and starting to realize I might be married to someone with strong narcissistic traits who only shows conditional love. So seriously, am I overreacting for publicly posting about how hurt and betrayed I feel? Because right now I really don't know what else to do. Bro, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way. This is so unacceptable. This is so tragic. Like, your mom's passing away. She's literally dying right in front of you. She's got an incurable situation and your wife is going off and going to a rave. Like, I'm sorry, that can wait, dude. You can always go to another rave. This is the time to be there for your husband and like prove that you actually give a crap. Because right now she's doing the opposite, dude. This is so mean. And it's so dismissive. Like, good Lord. She's sitting there being like, "oh, I'm so sorry you're hurt by my decision to go to a rave." As if this stupid party with this idiot she only knows barely is somehow more important than spending time with your partner and his dying mom. Like, I don't know, if this was me, I would definitely be like, okay, we're definitely getting a divorce. Like, I wouldn't want to stay with someone like this. That sounds like a nightmare. So no, you're not overreacting. I would probably do the same thing. I mean, people react in all kinds of ways when it comes to like grieving the loss of a loved one, and you're literally in the middle of that. So I don't blame you for how you reacted, and I think your wife is being completely toxic. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for refusing to sign off on 4 volunteer hours for a teenager who literally was only there for less than an hour, if that? Because his mom got incredibly pissed off when I refused to do it, and now in hindsight, I'm kind of wondering if I made a mistake here. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things off, we had a community cleanup in our neighborhood last Saturday near the park, and honestly, this wasn't anything major, just picking up trash and all this other stuff. And for me, the way I was involved was just to be a volunteer. A lot of teenagers came to like earn volunteer hours for school, but the rule was simple if they were doing that. You show up, you sign in, you do the work, and at the end of it, I signed the sheet with the actual time that you got. One guy showed up with his mom at around 9:15 in the morning, and for reference, the cleaning started at 9. He signed in, grabbed some gloves and a trash bag, took a couple of photos by the supplies table, and then headed towards the trail. Well, about 20 minutes later, I noticed that he wasn't in any of the groups. I didn't go looking for him because I'm not a babysitter, but I just thought that maybe he was with another team. But all the groups were handing their their bags to me and I didn't see him again. Well, at around 12:30, when we were all ready to wrap up, he showed up again with an iced coffee in his hand. His mom came up to me with a school form and asked me to sign off on 4 hours. But I simply told her I can't do that. According to what I saw, he was there for like less than an hour. So I agreed to sign for like 45 minutes or an hour max, but definitely not 4. Well, when I did that, this lady immediately got tense. She said to me that he was around and helping somewhere further down the trail, but I said that if one of the team leads can confirm this, then I will absolutely sign off for more. But I seriously just couldn't do that without it. She then lowered her voice and said that he needed those hours for a school requirement. Otherwise, he would be in trouble. But I said, well, it feels strange to me to sign for something that didn't happen. The guy, by the way, just stood there silently and didn't say anything and was instead just staring at his phone. After his mom said I was humiliating him in public, though there was like almost no people there, I replied that I wasn't calling him lazy or anything like that. I just wouldn't sign for 4 hours if he hadn't actually worked them. So to make a long story short, I ended up only signing off for 1 hour. And I watched as the mom and son left the park incredibly pissed off. But now, once it's all said and done, I'm not sure about my decision. And I even feel like I was being just a bit cruel. But it really seems to me that volunteer hours will lose all their meaning if all they would do is just show up, take a picture, and ask the parents to ask others to sign the paper. So seriously, am I the jerk for not signing off on all the hours? Because honestly, I'm not sure what to make of this. No, I don't think you're the jerk. Like, a side of me was saying during the middle of this story, like, oh, just sign off on it, who cares? But I know for a fact if I had been there volunteering for 4 hours, I would be very pissed off if some kid came in here and just got all the credit for something he didn't do. Like, no, I would not like that at all. I'd be very annoyed. Like, if he wanted the hours, the only honest thing to do here is just to like, oh, I don't know, roll up your sleeves and start raking leaves or whatever you were doing at the park. So no, anything that this kid's gonna miss out on for not having volunteer hours is not your problem. And if he wanted the hours, then he should have shown up and done the work just like everybody else. My boss banned his neighbor from our store after she kept parking her car in our loading bay, claiming that she knows the owner and that she can do whatever she wants, forcing me and the rest of my coworkers to go to extreme lengths just to move this car so that we can take our orders, as she was literally preventing us from doing business and from trucks coming and going from our back door. Here's what happened. So as a teenager, I worked on an island at a grocery store as the store receiver. Technically, I was the night receiver, but I worked from 9 until 6 o'clock p.m., and I was in charge of receiving the most important truck of the day, getting it unloaded, and then getting all of our garbage, our returns, and extra pallets and cardboard, etc. all loaded on the truck, and getting all of this back out of the door in time for it to drive halfway around the island and somehow catch the same ferry it had come in on. And this is all before it left. So yeah, as you can probably imagine, time was absolutely of the essence. The island is a pretty chill place in the winter, but in the summer, it is a rich man's playground, and we often got people parking on our loading bay. So 30 minutes before the truck comes, I always put out 3 traffic cones. Well, one day, a lady in a red convertible decides to push aside one of the cones and parks directly in our loading bay. Now, here's the thing. I saw her do it. Like, I ran out after her, telling her to move, but she refused and went into the store anyways, claiming, oh, I know the store owner, and he said it was fine. Well, I also knew the store owner, who I will call Danny for the sake of the story, and I knew he didn't say it was fine. Like, I definitely knew that. But after making repeated announcements and instructing all the cashiers not to let her check out and pay until she moved the car, she came fuming out and moved her car finally. The next morning, the store owner Danny asked me what happened, and I told him exactly what I had done, as the truck was literally on its way. He then told me that was fine and that he would speak to her, but surprise, surprise, she did in fact know Danny, but he definitely did not give her permission to park in our dock. But I will say, he did ask me not to tow her car, as she was his neighbor apparently, but also said that since it was a convertible, he didn't see why we couldn't just pull her e-brake and push it out of the way, which, you know what, sure enough is exactly what we did a week later. When, yeah, if you didn't guess it, she parked again in between my cones. And she literally did this when facing the loading bay door, which is when I looked her way as she flipped me off. Well, I went inside and got a couple other grocery guys, and after releasing the handbrake on her stupid little red convertible, I just pushed it straight across the parking lot. It barely gave enough room for our truck to get in, and she was completely blocked in for like 30 minutes while I unloaded it. She eventually came into the back of the store as I was unloading trucks, and in order to stop a pallet from hitting her, I had to jam my foot under the pallet jack wheels, causing it to like jump over my steel toe boots and land right on my foot. I then screamed at her to get out of my loading bay, and she was so shocked that she actually did it for once. Well, the next afternoon, I came in to get some things that I needed to finish reporting, which I really could have done from home. My shift manager had already approved a couple of days off so that I could heal my foot. Danny didn't know about any of this yet, as he had just arrived and immediately asked to speak with me. Now, I had already been to the hospital. I had filled out workers' compensation forms about the injury, and fortunately my foot wasn't broken, but instead it was extremely bruised. Now, Danny is actually a really decent boss, but he said to me that he had a complaint from a customer about me screaming and swearing at another customer, and wanted to know my side of the story. And it's here that I asked him if it was the same lady with the red car, and he confirmed that it was, which to him confirmed that I had in fact screamed at her. I then asked him if he had seen the security tapes from the dock, which by the way, there are several cameras that watch every inch of that area, and it's here that he told me that he hadn't, so I told him that until he watched the tapes, I really just didn't want to say anything else about it. Well, right in front of me, he pulled the tapes up. He saw me on the dock asking the lady not to park there. He saw her flip me off and leave the car anyways, and then a few minutes later, he saw me push her car with the grocery clerks, and then he saw how it was blocked by our truck. Switching to the inside cameras, he saw how she pushed right past the employee's door and barged into the loading bay, and how I literally had to use my own foot to stop her from being smashed by the pallet of milk that I was whizzing down the loading bay. I literally saved her life with my foot. Like, you couldn't see my foot or what stopped the pallet jack, but by then I had my shoe and my sock off, and Danny only took like one look at my bruised foot to understand the cause for my rather loud yelling, which was then shown on screen. And it's funny how the red car lady forgot to mention all these things when she was complaining to him. Well, Danny said that if she ever parked in the loading bay door again, I need to call a tow truck immediately, regardless of the time of day. He knew full well that I could have had a much more serious injury because of this lady, and even after having an entire pallet of milk on my foot, and admittedly screaming at her to get out of the loading bay, I still in fact did not swear at her, and if I wanted to, I could have used the injury to get some more time off of work, costing the business a lot of money instead of, the 2 days that I really did need to feel like I could walk again. Well, the next week came and went, and sure enough, Friday afternoon, guess who pulls up and parks not in the loading bay door, but right in front of the dumpster beside the loading bay, which by the way is still effectively blocking our truck from making the wide turn to get into the bay. And sure, there were no cones there specifically, but my god, I was done with this. I didn't even say anything to her as she flipped me off again, like she thinks she won somehow. I called a tow truck, but sadly there was an accident, and they couldn't show up for like an hour. So I grabbed the produce guy and a grocery guy, but this time we were unable to push her car, as she had put the top onto it and rolled the windows up. But my god, I didn't care. So I just took the pallet jack and I had the produce guy grab like a few pallets. I then put a pallet under her car, and using the pallet jack, I lifted and moved her car all the way across to the parking lot, and then I dropped it onto a stack of 2 or more pallets. Now, what I mean by that is that her tires weren't even on the ground. I just left it like that and then told the tow truck where her car was when he had the time. Now, to the credit of this weird entitled lady, she didn't come into my back end screaming like last time, but the screaming was loud enough that one of the managers called Danny, and he came down to the store and without even talking to me, just backed me up and banned her from the store entirely. So I guess she wasn't as good of a friend as she thought she was. Now, I gotta say, yeah, this is petty, but you know what? It was also incredibly rewarding. In fact, Danny actually gave me a 10-cent raise right after that, and never even told me that I did anything wrong. So I guess he even thought that she had crossed a line, because this clearly was something he was not gonna tolerate. Holy crap, that lady sounds like a nightmare. And it's even worse because she really feels empowered by the fact that, oh yeah, the owner is my neighbor. I can do whatever I want and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, good lord, imagine being that entitled that you can't just park in the parking lot, dude. It's right there. Is it really that far of a walk for you? You're not some VIP lady. You're not important to us. You literally almost got taken out by like a pallet of milk, lady. Like, come on. And she still has the audacity to sit there and be like, oh yeah, that young man is the problem here. He yelled at me and cursed at me after I went in the back loading bay. I mean, what's the big deal? They're just moving heavy equipment all over the place. Like, what an idiot. She could have died. Like, does she not care? But personally, I love this. I love the fact that your manager was cool with you pretty much doing whatever you wanted. Literally, you're like moving the car around by like pulling up the e-brake and pushing it. You even jacked up the car on a pallet and left it there. Like, holy crap. That manager is just probably fed up and just doesn't care at that point. So yeah, I love this. I think this is hilarious. This is like a dream of someone who works in retail. You have all these crap crappy customers all day, and then you're like, man, I wish I could get back at one of them. And that never happens, dude. That's always like a pipe dream, but this guy actually did it. The original poster lived that dream for all of us, so kudos to you, man. That sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm glad you got to live the dream that all of us measly little retail workers have always wanted to live. Am I the jerk for making too much noise allegedly in my apartment after my downstairs neighbors literally called the cops on me for vacuuming? Because these people are just straight up crazy, and at this point I don't know what to do about them. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so I live on the second floor of a 4-story building with my wife, and for the past couple of months, our downstairs neighbors have been making our lives miserable over normal, like, apartment noises. This all started with the absolute dumbest thing ever: the noise of our morning alarm vibrations. My wife is a teacher and needs to be at school at like 7:30 in the morning, and for me, I start work at 8 o'clock in the morning. We set our alarms at 5:30 a.m. every day, and the neighbors complained that the vibration from our phones on the nightstand woke them up because they sleep until 7 o'clock. So to be accommodating, we turned off the vibrate feature, but they still complained and started bothering us in the parking lot on our way to our cars. The next complaint they had was about our floor. Our building has hardwood floors, and we have neighbors above us too, and we hear them walking around all the time. But guess what? We ignore it because that's just apartment living. And for the record, we don't stomp or make noise like that. We literally just exist. Now, this is where things kind of escalate. Recently, I was installing a bedroom air conditioning unit one evening, and I made sure to finish before 10 o'clock p.m. to abide by local noise ordinances. The next morning, they cornered us and said, "We're gonna call the cops on you." And honestly, that was our breaking point. We then reported them to the landlord for bothering us like that, which finally stopped the parking lot confrontations altogether. But then today, I took a PTO day to relax and just clean the house, and I was vacuuming and tidying up between 11:30 and 12:30 during the day. But shortly after that, a police officer actually knocked on my door. Apparently, the neighbors called 911, and they claimed I was stomping on the floor just to spite them, all because we reported them to the landlord. They genuinely believe that we're tracking their schedules just to annoy them. And it's like, bro, I barely have time to track my own life, let alone theirs. And at this point, I honestly feel trapped. We've accommodated them, but I need to be able to walk and clean and live in my own home during like broad daylight. So am I really the jerk for losing my patience, or are they just completely out of line? Because I just don't know what to do anymore. No, you're definitely not the jerk here. Dude, these people suck. How can you live in an apartment and not be ready to deal with people like walking around or like vacuuming their floors at normal hours? It's also really like weird that they're cornering you in the parking lot and being like, "Oh, we're gonna call the cops on you." Like, dude, I would probably carry a camera on me like all the time at that point. I would start like recording them and like make sure I have evidence of them acting like weirdos. Like anything you do at that point is just pissing them off over and over again. And that's really not fair if you ask me. Like that really sucks. So no, you're not the jerk. You're just trying to live your life, dude. These people clearly don't have a life and they're just obsessed with making your life miserable. And that's really not fair because everything they've complained about is just normal stuff when it comes to living in an apartment. My family is essentially condemning my job, even though I use it to pay for my rent, have a savings, and buy a car. And now after a recent interaction with a family member of mine, my mom's saying that I should have described my job as a temporary hobby instead of a career that I chose to pursue. And right now, I'm honestly really pissed off about this, and I just don't know what to do moving forward. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I make a living through online game markets. It's mostly like MMO economy, digital goods, trading, leveling up, and any other services I'm capable of providing within the games that I play. I know it sounds strange to people outside the field, but this has been my main source of income for several years now. I pay taxes, I rent a place, I bought myself a nice car, I save money, just in case something goes wrong, and my income is gradually growing over time. It's not just sitting in front of my PC and playing all day. It involves clients, scheduling, bookkeeping, some risk, market monitoring, competition, and plenty of routine work. Now, I graduated from college with a degree in cybersecurity, but I didn't go work in that field full time. I find it interesting, but more as a hobby than anything else. I didn't want to sit at a job that didn't suit me for 40 hours a week just so my job title would sound decent to my relatives. My family, though, is very career focused. My brother works at a law firm and my cousins work in finance and corporate. They don't yell at me or anything like that, but they constantly treat my work like it's just a phase. My mom says it's awkward for her to explain to people what I do because it doesn't sound stable. Well, recently, my younger cousin asked how I was able able to buy a car. And you know what? I answered honestly. I make money online through game markets. But I immediately added that it's not easy money, it's not a guarantee either, and it's no reason to neglect school. I said that I managed to turn a niche hobby that I understand well into an income, but that doesn't mean everyone should try to do the same. Well, later on, my mom called me and said that I should have just called it a temporary hobby. According to her, now my cousin can think that he could just sit around playing games and not build a proper career. But I said I wouldn't lie about my life just to make the adults feel better. I didn't advertise it as easy money either. I just refused to pretend that my work wasn't real. My brother later wrote that I romanticize gaming and that one day I'll regret not having a normal resume. Now, I understand that my job really is strange and it may seem unstable, even though you can get fired from an ordinary job too. But that's just how I pay my bills, my taxes, my rent. It's how I have a savings and it's how I bought a car. So it really just drives me crazy that my family sees the results of my work but still calls the work itself toys. What should I do? Dude, I think you know this, but I'm gonna say it for you. Your family absolutely sucks for the way they're treating you. Like, come on, dude. If I met someone who did this for a living, where they made money through like a video game like that, I wouldn't be spiteful and like almost like antagonizing them. I would be like congratulating them. I would say to them, dude, you escaped the Matrix. Congratulations. Because that's a unique job, and I think we've heard of stuff like that before on the channel, but this really is something that you don't see every day. And why should anybody condemn it? Like, just because it's not a traditional route doesn't mean that suddenly, oh yeah, you can't go that route. That's unstable. But like the original poster's right, you could get fired from your normal job at any time. What's wrong with making money doing it from like a source that you enjoy and you really love? I'm the kind of person who would much rather ride out that kind of scenario where you make a living doing what you love as opposed to like being stuck in a corporate job. Like, that would really suck for me personally. So seriously, if I was in your shoes, I would keep plowing ahead no matter what. I would make it work. I would find a way to make all of this work and just keep going forward no matter what anyone says. An entitled Karen thought that she was going to stay at my house for free for over 9 days, as she literally set up some sleeping bags in my guest bedroom, saying that if I didn't help her out, then I wasn't supporting a single mother, putting me in one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in my entire life. And honestly, I hope I never deal with this woman ever again. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where a house guest can very quickly become a squatting problem if you're not careful. And this first story is wild, so buckle in because it gets really weird very fast. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't done it already, and also click the bell to turn on notifications. That way you never miss a video and you're always up to date on what we got going on. Let's get started. Okay, so this happened last week, more specifically on Thursday. I called up a friend of mine who I will call Sarah, and I asked if she wanted to come over for dinner. Since I was making way too much food, I decided that I wanted to share. Well, it's here that she told me she had a friend visiting from out of town and asked if her friend could also come along. And I told her, yeah, that's totally fine, because hey, the more the merrier, right? Well, wrong, actually. This is horrifyingly wrong. Fast forward about an hour and my friend knocks on the door. She's got another woman with her and 2 kids I've never seen before in my entire life. The unknown people had bags with them, which made sense to me since they were visiting and probably didn't have time to stow their stuff before coming over. The kids, however, were completely unexpected, and I really would have liked to know about that ahead of time if they were coming. Anyways, the mom, who I will call Ashley for the sake of the story, asked me if she could stash her bags somewhere that would be out of the way. I took her to one of the guest rooms and I told her that she could put them in there. Then I went back to the group. The kids then asked if I had video games, which I very much do, so I took them to the game room and I showed them my consoles and my PC. And honestly, they seemed very pleased about that. I head back to the kitchen to finish up cooking while Sarah, Ashley, my wife, and our girlfriend hung out in the living room watching some reality TV brain rot, and honestly, everybody was happy. I then ring the chow bell, and yes, I literally ring a brass bell in the kitchen to alert people when food is being served, and I start bringing food into the dining room. The adults come in, my kids come in, my grandkids come in, but Ashley's kids were still in the game room. I went to let them know that dinner was being served, and they asked to have plates brought to them in the game room, but I explained that we don't do that in my house. Everyone eats at the table and no food is allowed in the game room. And it's here they begrudgingly complied and followed me to the dining room. Things were going well, everyone enjoyed the food, and we had some nice conversation. When I got up to get dessert, which was some homemade flan, Ashley wandered back to the guest room where her stuff was. After we ate dessert, Ashley told her kids it was time to get changed for bed, and honestly, I found this very strange. I mean, who who puts their pajamas on in a place where they don't intend to sleep? I then asked her, well, why not just wait until you're at your hotel to get them changed? And at this point, I got a train dropped on my head. She didn't have a hotel reservation. It turns out she'd set up sleeping bags for her kids in my guest room, since according to her, we have so much space. And it's like, ma'am, I've never met you before tonight. I did not offer you my guest room to sleep in. It turns out she had not booked any accommodations for her family because she knew Sarah had a rich friend with a big house, and she fully intended to stay at my house without ever asking either me or Sarah. Then at this point, I got guilt tripped from Ashley, and thankfully not Sarah, about not supporting single mothers. They ended up having to book a room at a local casino hotel for like $300 a night for about a week and a half. And apparently I cost a single mother 2 months worth of rent since I didn't want strangers in my house for 9 days. But seriously, how entitled do you have to be to just assume a stranger will put you and your 2 kids up? And for over a week at that. It honestly blew me away, and seriously, I was so happy to get her out of my house. Oh my God, can you imagine being Sarah in that situation? Here you are trying to like entertain these people, and it's like, oh, my friend is gonna have dinner. Do you want to go eat with us? And then they pull something like this, dude. It also makes me question Sarah at this point, because it's like, bro, did you know this was gonna happen? Did you know at all that this lady was gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay here for 9 days. You've got plenty of room. It's not a big deal, right? Because if she did know this was gonna happen, then holy crap, she was trying to drop it off at your place. She probably got that phone call and was like, thank God you called. I don't want to deal with this lady. And that would be tragic if that really is the truth. Like, that would be so unbelievably toxic. So yeah, dude, I would be so furious over this. It's not even funny, because this kind of behavior is weird and there's no justifying it. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My wife's friend insulted her when we were attending her wedding, so I've decided to get some petty revenge over the years by slowly returning the favor in the most subtle and petty way possible. And honestly, I don't regret it for a second. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife's friend got married a couple of years back, and she made it this 3-day-long event with multiple meals and 2 ceremonies, and everything had different dress codes. Day 1 was some dinner that started at 9 o'clock at night and took 3 hours, which afterwards she forced everyone to go dancing. We joined for the meal, but because this was on a weekday, we told her that we couldn't go dancing at midnight. The next day at her brunch, she tells us how much fun they had dancing and how even old people and some children went along as well. But I just brushed it off and I smiled and didn't say anything about it. Then 2 different ceremonies happened that day, and then finally the event will end with another brunch on the 3rd day. And by this point, we are exhausted because, man, we are not party people, but we wanted to be nice and participate. So the morning before the brunch, we get up early, we get into our 4th outfit for her event. My wife does her hair and makeup again for the 4th time, and we get over there for this brunch. Her friend greets us and says, oh, hi babe, you look so comfy. And she says it with like this judgmental tone in her voice, as if to say my wife wasn't trying hard enough, which was absolute garbage. Now, my wife tries her best to brush the event off and says it's just stress from the wedding that made her terrible towards us for the entire time. But you know what? I've decided that her friend is just a jerk, and I will be slowly repaying her for years to come. And honestly, this is what I've been doing. Ever since then, at various gatherings, I have given her the following compliments. I would say stuff like, oh, I love how you don't care about vanity. You just go with that natural look and you don't care what anyone thinks. Or I'd say, oh, you look super comfy. And I've said variations of this one several times. I also said, oh, I wish I could have your attitude with arriving whenever, but I always have to show up on time for things, and so on and so forth. The greatest part is that you can see the gears turning as she tries to figure out if I'm being complimentary or not. And honestly, I will continue doing this until this person is no longer in our lives. Because sure, this might be just a little bit petty, but in my opinion, she absolutely deserves it. Okay, I kind of love this energy personally because it sounds like this friend is a toxic person. And it's funny because like when someone's tired or like they're kind of like, I don't know, frustrated or they're under stress, someone's true colors come out very quickly and you can see exactly the kind of person they really are. And I think this is a very real thing. So the fact that this lady was exhausted after, oh, I don't know, 3 ceremonies for her wedding and then decides to be like, oh, wow, you look so comfortable at this last event. You know, this unnecessary 3rd event that I'm doing. Because yeah, she absolutely was being judgmental. She was being rude. She was trying to make a dig at your wife. And at that moment, guess what? The gloves are off, dude. I'm gonna say whatever I want from here on out. There's not gonna be any holding back. You literally cannot stop me. And also, I want to point out from this supposed friend, like, you can see this subtle shift in attitude that becomes toxic and just a little bit sharp, where she's clearly saying, oh yeah, you look like crap and I'm judging you, but she's saying it in a way that can almost be seen as like, oh, maybe it's a compliment, but in reality, there's a lot of double speak going going on. And people like this drive me nuts because you can never totally pin them down and be like, you're being rude, stop talking to me like that. Because then they can double back and be like, what do you mean? I didn't do anything wrong. What's going on? You seem so mad. And I hate that. But in my opinion, I think the best way to fight that is by doing it right back at them. They can't stand it. And I guarantee you it'll drive them crazy after a while. So good for you, dude. You absolutely should be standing up for your wife, especially if this moron's gonna be making these kind of crappy comments. My wife scheduled a fancy dinner reservation for my birthday, even though for weeks leading up to my birthday, I told her I didn't want to do that. I literally just wanted to go to like Olive Garden or something like that and just eat food there. But once the day of my birthday came around and I discovered her plans, we got into a huge argument about this, eventually causing us to go eat dinner at separate places and thus causing a massive conflict when I got home. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do from here. Okay, so this has been an ongoing issue and it finally came to a head yesterday. My wife is a planner and it is extremely hard for her to just go with the flow. If we're going to do something, she needs all the details. And as a side note, she does have OCD, and that is why she is such a planner. Now, a while ago, she asked what I wanted to do for my birthday. Now, I've been really burnt out from work, so I told her I just want to go to a chain restaurant around here on my birthday. Literally just a chill night out. I don't want to get dressed up or anything like that. She then asked me where and what time, and I told her, well, I'll pick the day of, and it depends on what I'm feeling. Maybe I want to go to Olive Garden, or maybe get some Chinese takeout, whatever. I expressed many times that I don't want to plan anything and I just want to go with the day. And really, I just wanted to go eat what I was feeling that day. Well, this week she asked what time and I told her when we both get home, so maybe like 5 or 6 o'clock we can go out and do something. Well, she was frustrated that I wasn't giving her an answer about where to eat. And I told her multiple times that I'm just gonna feel it out on the day. She then asked if we needed reservations and I told her no multiple times. We will be a walk-in on Wednesday to a chain restaurant. She then asked if I wanted anything fancy and I told her no, I just want a simple night. Well, yesterday was when the issue really came into play. I wanted Olive Garden, I wanted to go home, get some breadsticks, and chill the rest of the night. I get home at around 5 o'clock and my wife is all dressed up. I asked her why she's doing that, and she said that she made reservations for the fancy sushi place in the city. She said it was a surprise and we need to leave in about 20 minutes. And seriously, nothing has sounded so unappealing in my entire life. I then told her that I just wanted to go to Olive Garden. And when I said that, we got into an argument about how she spent all this effort to get a reservation, but I told her I didn't want any of this. In the end, I left to go to Olive Garden by myself, and we got into another argument after I came back. So am I the jerk in this situation? Like, am I really at fault here? Because I really don't know what to do. Okay, I can't stand this. I'm raising my hand, dude. I'm the kid at the back of the class who's saying, yeah, this sucks. This situation's annoying. Because, dude, what is your wife doing? You told her multiple times, dude. You said, hey, I just want to do whatever I want that day. I don't want to plan it out. We don't need like a meticulous schedule. Just go with the flow, man. Go with the flow. It doesn't have to be that serious. We don't have to sit there and be like, okay, this is our schedule. This is what we're going to do on the day. Because, dude, it sounds like you work hard enough as it is, and you're probably sick of that. And you probably just want to be like, dude, I'm just going to go with whatever happens. Wherever the universe takes me, that's where I'm gonna eat. And it sounded like Olive Garden was the pick. So for your wife to be like, oh, by the way, I scheduled something for us. We're gonna go get some sushi because that's what you didn't want. And it's like, dude, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to go schedule something. So for her to literally go against your wishes is really annoying. And no, I don't accept OCD as an excuse. That's bullcrap. That's a cop-out. Just because she deals with that doesn't mean she doesn't have self-control. And part of that self-control is saying, hey, I can't control what other people want to do. And if my husband doesn't want to go eat somewhere scheduled, then guess what? On his birthday, that's not what we're gonna do. So no, you're not the jerk. I think you had every right to go to Olive Garden. I think your wife overstepped and she's being really annoying right now. And I don't blame you for wanting to do your own thing. Today, I massively messed up by accidentally learning my coworker's salary, and now I literally can't stop doing the math during meetings and literally crunching numbers about how much more money he makes than me, because right now I feel like I'm losing my mind and I don't really know what else to do. Here's how it happened. Okay, so this happened 2 weeks ago and it's honestly been eating me alive. For starters, I work in an open office. My coworker, who I will call Greg, sits directly across from me. Our monitors face each other, and I've never once looked at his screen on purpose for probably any reason, and I want to make that clear because what happened was entirely an accident and also entirely his fault. Greg got up to go to the bathroom and left his screen unlocked. And this is normal. Like, people do this and I don't really care. But he left a PDF open and it was zoomed in like 400%. I don't know why anyone would zoom in their PDF to 400%, but Greg did, and because of that, I could read it from like 4 feet away without even trying. It was his offer letter from when he was hired with his salary, and this is when I discovered he makes like $31,000 more than I do. Now, we have have the same title. We have the same team. He started 8 months after me, and I even trained him, meaning that I trained the man who makes $31,000 more than I do. I showed him how to use our project management tool. I walked him through the client onboarding process. I sat with him for 2 hours explaining our filing system, which honestly, even I don't fully understand, but I pretend I did because I was his mentor. And I just keep coming back to the fact that yeah, he makes $31,000 more than I do. I simply can't stop doing the math. Every single meeting we're in together, I'm calculating. Okay, this meeting is 1 hour. He's making this much an hour, whereas I'm making that much an hour. And at this point, I start to spiral down the rabbit hole. Like I've started a spreadsheet, and I know this is unhinged, but the spreadsheet has columns. The worst part is that Greg is good at his job. He's not some idiot coasting by on nepotism. He's competent. He's pleasant. He brings in those little Stroop waffle cookies for the office on Fridays. He's never done a single thing wrong to me. This man is my friend. I went to his birthday dinner last month. I bought him a gift, like literally a gift with my lesser salary. And it's like, dude, what is happening right now? I looked up his job posting from when he was hired, and it listed the salary range. And the range started at what I make and went up to what he makes. So technically, we're both in the same range. I'm just at the bottom and he's at the top. Same range, same title, but just different ends of it. Like two people in the same bus, except he's in first class and I'm sitting on the wheel. I know I should negotiate. I know that I should talk to my manager, and I know the mature thing to do is to advocate for myself. But instead, I've been silently tracking the cumulative salary gap between me and Greg in a Google sheet that I literally have named Greg Data and password protected it, even though nobody would ever want to look at it. And right now, I've tracked just a little over $6,000 since I found out. 14 working days. I'll stop tracking it when I get a raise or when I lose my mind. And honestly, at this point, it's a coin flip because right now I just don't know what to do with myself. Okay, this sounds like a great opportunity to go to your manager and be like, hey, I think it's time for me to get a raise. Not necessarily mentioning like what Greg makes or anything like that, but I would be like, yeah, I think it's time for me to start making just a little bit more money, or however you want to have that conversation. Because clearly you hold a lot of value in this company. Like, dude, you train someone who's great at their job, and now they get paid more than you, and it's like, dude, I've been here longer, this kind of sucks. And it's like, bro, you deserve to make that much money as well. So if I was in your shoes, that's what I would do personally. I would say something and start advocating for myself like you know you should be doing. Because I think the only silver lining here is that you can try to look at this as a positive instead of a negative and try to turn this into an opportunity that you can try and capitalize on. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law that her opinion on my wedding isn't more important than mine? Because after I did that, things have started to kind of fall apart a little bit, as my sister-in-law is now very offended and has put me in a weird position. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm getting married in September, and I love that month since it's kind of between summer and fall. Also, my fiance proposed to me last December on my birthday. Now, I've met his family countless times. My future mother-in-law, father-in-law, and sister-in-law, they're all very cordial and very friendly. But the whole mess that I'm in right now started when I began organizing my wedding, which is very tedious, but also really exciting. We hired a wedding planner to see how we could like mix our tastes and hobbies, and he's a bit of a data computer nerd in coding, and I call him my little hacker, and he loves the Matrix movie, which I still haven't seen. But anyways, we wanted to add little quirks whenever we could. Maybe some computer numbers and some Matrix references hidden in between our wedding invitations and our decorations. I'm a fan of Breaking Bad, and I'm a nerd when it comes to the Oscar race movies since I was little, and I love Ariana Grande. So it's been so fun to see how we can mix all of it together. Well, last week I invited over my mom, my future mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and both of my sisters to our third wedding planning meeting. They saw all that we had done and found it cute, and I made sure that those little things were hidden well enough to not be seen quickly, but also could be pointed out. But then my sister-in-law out of nowhere says that we should cut it, saying that it's too tacky. My fiance explains that we had both discussed it and we love the idea. But she doubles down and says, oh, we should be more classy than this. But dude, I looked at her and I said these clues were not only hidden, but would only appear on our wedding invitations. And she looked at me so crazy, like she couldn't believe I said that. She then said to me, oh, I'm just looking out for you. Then she said we shouldn't have chocolate cake and instead it should be strawberry. How my dress shouldn't be a princess cut because it's too 80s. How I should dye my hair brunette because it fits my face. And at some point, it started sounding like orders instead of suggestions. I then looked at her and I said, well, everything you just said I should change, I really like, so it's staying, period, end of story. And I think it probably would have been better if I just cursed her out. She didn't speak to me again, but by the end of the meeting, she pulled my partner aside and, according to him, demanded that I respected her more and her opinions, since her dream has always been to plan a wedding, and I would be her future sister, so I should not place her aside like that. But it's like, what are we talking about? Apparently, she's like super offended right now, and my partner even suggested that I should maybe apologize. And honestly, at first I was like, there's no way I'm doing that. But at the end of the day, I mean, I will go ahead and do it, but I'm also prone to little acts of being immature, and I wonder if I actually went a little bit too far. So really, am I actually the jerk here because I don't know what else to do? No, dude, your sister-in-law was trying to change pretty much everything about your wedding. She was like, oh yeah, this is all really tacky and I don't like it. That means that you have to cut it. Sorry, end of story. Literally going through and being like, that sucks, that's too 80s, I don't like that, get rid of that, make the cake strawberry and do it right now. It's like, dude, I'm not gonna change all these things just because you don't like it. If I didn't like it and I changed it, that would be different. But I agree with the original poster, dude. It sounded like she was just barking orders instead of being like, hey, maybe this would be a better way to shift it. Because at the end of the day, it's the original poster's wedding, dude. The sister-in-law doesn't get to pretend like she's King Joffrey from Game of Thrones and be like, we need to change that right now. It's like, no, dude, I'm not changing anything. If you don't like it, don't be a part of it. And also, I guarantee you she's only offended because you actually put her in her place, not because you said anything wrong. Because from the sounds of it, it seems like this is the kind of person who can't take no for an answer, and anytime someone does tell her that she can't do something, they throw a giant fit and they're like, oh my gosh, the world's falling in on me. When in reality, all you did was say no, and that is exactly what happened here. Would I be the jerk for not paying for an event that I'm literally volunteering to help out with? Because once I found that out, I was incredibly offended, and now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things off, I attend a large church. They host a larger event for women once a year, and it's 2 hours on a Friday night and 3 hours on a Saturday that includes some casual food and an extremely casual goodie bag. There are a lot of volunteers to make events happen at this church regularly that seats around like 1,700 people on a Sunday morning. I'm part of the media team, and I was asked to help with social media both days of the event, and that includes posting live stories and taking video content for future reels. Well, I was asked to pay the full $25 to attend the event, as what I'm volunteering to do, according to them, is just social media coverage, and apparently not necessarily something that will take away from the majority of attending the conference. And this was verbatim from the staff. Mind you, the staff got to go for free because, drumroll please, they're being asked to work the event. I really feel like there is little to absolutely no appreciation for the countless hours spent volunteering. Like, we maybe get a pizza party once a year, if that. It's also important to note that I completely run the youth page and the young adult page, and I often help with main church content. Like, I am a high capacity volunteer, but this may be the straw that breaks the camel's back for me personally. Like, to show appreciation is one thing, but to make me pay to work an event is another. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Am I the one tripping up and making a mistake? Because I really don't know what to do anymore. Dude, if I was volunteering for free to help out any organization and I did all the heavy lifting that you did, bro, I would quit on the spot. I would not come back. I'd be like, dude, I'm not going to be a part of this, especially if you're not going to appreciate my hard work. Because what are they talking about? Oh, your social media coverage is not going to be, that hard. You're going to be attending the conference as a whole. So yeah, you've got to pay. But it's like, dude, no, I'm working. I'm literally getting B-roll footage that's going to be used for like, I don't know, months at a time. You're really going to try and tell me that my work is not real work? Like, what are we doing right now? That is so disrespectful. If they really feel that way, then congratulations. Here's all the stuff you need. You can do it. Which, of course, they're not going to want to do that. They're going to be like, oh, wait, no, you need to do it, but you need to pay to do it. Sorry. So no, you're not the jerk, dude. These people suck. I would never volunteer for them ever again. And if anything, I would give them an invoice for my time that I actually spent at the event and say, yeah, you got to pay me this hourly rate for all of my hard work. Because, dude, $25, like, I'm not spending that. That's insulting, and I should be paid for being there. Today, I got my best friend at work in trouble with our boss after I got written up at work due to me missing my shift after my friend changed it as a prank and then never told me about it. But as a result, my friend's now on probation and she is pissed, saying that I messed with her job despite the fact that she did this first. And now I'm honestly not sure what to do about this because I feel like I ruined my friendship and I feel like I might have overreacted just a little bit. And I really just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, where you too can have your friends try to sabotage your job and get you in trouble with your boss over crap you didn't even do. And that's exactly what happens in this first story I've got for you. It is wild. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. That way you never miss a video and you can stay up to date on what we got going on, and trust me, we have some fun ones on the way. Let's get started. So I work at a small cafe with a pretty tight staff. One of my coworkers, who I used to consider as a friend, is known for being very playful. She likes to mess with people. She likes to swap name tags, hide stuff, that kind of thing. Most people people laugh it off, but I've told her before that I don't like being part of it. Over the past couple of months, she started pranking me by switching my shifts in the system. And at first it was small, like moving me an hour earlier and then texting, "Oops, sorry about that." And I told her, please stop it, but guess what? She didn't. Then one week, she swapped one of my morning shifts to a late night without even telling me. I showed up in the morning like scheduled, and when I got there, I was told that I wasn't needed, and then got written up for missing the night shift that I didn't even know about. And my God, I was furious. When I confronted her about it, she just started laughing at me. She said, "Oh, I thought you'd notice. It's not that big of a deal." But I told her this could mess with my job, and I need the income. But when I said that, she just shrugged and said, "Oh, you're being way too serious." I ended up going to our manager and showing screenshots of the schedule changes, as well as our messages that we sent back and forth. Well, management finally looked into it, and they found out that she'd been doing it more than once. And eventually she got written up and lost her ability to access the scheduling system, plus she got put on probation. And now she is pissed at me, saying I got her in trouble over a harmless joke. Now, a couple of my coworkers are split on this, as some of them think that I did the right thing, but others think that I should have handled it privately. She's been cold to me ever since and keeps saying that I messed with her job over nothing. And honestly, I'm at a point where I just don't know what to do. Like, am I the jerk here? Did I do something wrong, or is my friend really crossing a line? What should I do? Okay, dude, I don't care who you are. The second someone starts screwing with my paycheck on a monthly basis is the day I'm gonna get real pissed off. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make whatever behavior they're doing to stop and show them right then and there that, bro, you cannot screw with me like that. That is not okay. Like, seriously, think about it for a second. She's actively being like, "Oh, I'm gonna switch your shift around." And then the original poster shows up on, like, I don't know, a wrong day or like a wrong time. And then they get written up for it. Like, okay, that is absolutely uncalled for. That's like when the gloves come off, bro. I would be all over reporting her. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, we're friends, but I'm also going to get you in trouble because this is insane behavior. You're not going to get away with this." So no, you're not the jerk, dude. This is some weird behavior. Like, dude, if you want to prank me, then hide my phone or my car keys, or like, I don't know, mess with like how I'm doing things at the cafe. Don't impact the thing that allows me to make rent, dude. What are you doing? I've got to pay for bills, man. I got to make rent and survive, bro. It's hard out here. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. Would you also be pissed off at your friend if they were pranking you like this and they were switching your shift around? Like, honestly, I'd be upset, but I want to hear what you have to say. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Today, I messed up by trying to celebrate my boyfriend's birthday by buying a banner that I thought said happy birthday, but in all actuality said something way different, resulting in the both of us busting up laughing in a way we really didn't expect. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend just got back from a week-long stint in the hospital a few days ago. He had his leg amputated below the knee after 20 years of pain and suffering caused by a car accident when he was 20. He's really depressed, and I was feeling really bad for him, having to deal with phantom pain, actual pain, a drainage pump, and a general lack of a leg. To add a rotten cherry on top, we gave him the worst flu any of us have ever experienced upon coming home. His birthday's in a week, and since he's miserable, I came up with a grand idea to do something each day to celebrate, and each day the surprise will get bigger and better. For day one, I remembered I bought a bunch of party items at a yard sale. Digging through the box, I found a blue glittered happy birthday banner, and I thought it would be the perfect start to a week of birthday surprises. So I grabbed some tape and I ran to the bedroom, excited to ease my boyfriend's sorrows. Once I started to put my plan into action, I realized the package felt really thin. There was no way there were enough letters in there for 2 whole words, but I thought, screw it, it's the thought that counts, so I just carried on. I then blocked his view of the TV with my big head and started hanging it up. He was mostly confused and became a little annoyed that I was interrupting his usual political bashing YouTube channels that he always watches, but knowing I'm always up to something off the wall, he just laid there in bed watching me. As I hang it, I finally read it, and oh my god, I was shocked, amused, bewildered, and laughing so hard I could hardly stand on my feet. It didn't say happy birthday at all, not even anything close to that. In giant, aggressively festive blue glitter letters, it just said the word cancer. Literally nothing else. No happy, no birthday, just a celebratory announcement of a terminal illness draped directly under the TV where his eyes couldn't ignore. And my god, we both absolutely lost it. We were laughing, coughing, and sharing possible theories of how this happened and where this banner would actually be appropriate to hang. I inspected the package to see if I misread it, and it clearly had happy birthday on the front of the package. When I looked at the sticker on the back of the barcode, it said Happy World Lung Cancer Day. It was likely a Temu purchase by the looks of it, so between Temu and the yard sale, I was just lucky enough to get the only cancer part of the banner and nothing else. Anyways, I set to cheer up my boyfriend and I did just that, but I did it in the most messed up and unplanned fashion possible. But now it kind of makes me wonder what I'm gonna have to do for the rest of the week because I don't know if I can top this. Oh my god, that's really funny. I think humor is always the best medicine, especially in situations like this where it's like, dude, this could not be more depressing. So yeah, this is like a really surprising moment and I love this for the both of you, and hopefully this brightened up your boyfriend's life just a little bit more. Am I the jerk for not remaking a handmade gift I was making for my friend after she practically insulted it right in the middle of me finishing it up? Because now I'm being called too sensitive and that she was just giving helpful feedback, when in reality I really feel hurt by her comments and I don't know if I made a mistake by switching the gift out. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm a guy and I make handmade gifts sometimes for people I'm actually close with. Mostly because I like making things with my hands, and also because if I buy something nice, I'll just overlook it for 3 days and still feel weird about it. A friend of mine had a birthday coming up, and a while back, she said she loves gifts that feel personal. So I decided to make her a fabric pouch with hand embroidery on the front. And this was not a quick job either. I had already spent a few evenings on it after work, redone part of the stitching once, bought a better lining because the first one looked really cheap, and the whole annoying process just really took a while. Now, a few days before her birthday, she came by for coffee and saw it on the table because I was finishing the last little bits of it. She then picked it up and said, half laughing, "Oh, this is almost actually normal if not for this part," and pointed at one side where the stitching was a little bit uneven. Then she added that if I fixed that section, it would look proper enough to use outside. And you know what? I just stood there holding my mug like an idiot for a second. She was not yelling or anything like that, but it landed really badly. It was one of those tiny comments that somehow makes you feel dumb all at once. I said something like, "Yeah, well, that's the handmade part," and then I just changed the subject. After she left, I got so irritated, I put the whole thing away and I decided I was not touching it again. I didn't throw it out or start some huge argument. I just stopped working on it altogether. And once her birthday came around, I just gave her a card and a small store-bought gift instead. She noticed right away, by the way, and later texted asking what happened to the pouch. I then told her honestly that after what she had said, I didn't really feel like finishing it for her. She then said I'm being way too sensitive, that she was just giving helpful feedback, and that if I'm going to be giving out handmade stuff, I can't expect to act like every part looks amazing. One mutual friend said that I made it weird by taking the comment personally, and then quietly switching gifts instead of just saying something right there. Another said calling a handmade gift almost normal was really rude, and she would have gotten nothing after that. I keep going back and forth. I mean, yeah, maybe I should have said something immediately instead of stewing over it like a moron, but I also do not think that someone gets to insult a gift they have not even received yet, and then expect to go home and keep sewing for them like some cheerful little workshop goblin. So honestly, am I the jerk here because I don't really know what to do anymore? No, you did the right thing. This lady would never get anything handmade for me ever again. Now, if you held a hammer to my head and said, "You need to sew this right now," I would be screwed. Like, I can't do anything like this. But I do have family members that can, and holy crap, there's so much work that goes into that. And that's especially true if you want it to look good. So for the friend to be like, "Wow, this almost looks normal, you screwed up on this side of it," that is like a surefire way for me to never really want to celebrate anything to do with you ever again. Like, dude, I would probably not even think about you again if that's how I'm gonna get treated. Like, screw that. So yeah, you should not be like obligated to make a gift for someone who's clearly not grateful for it and obviously is not going to appreciate it. That would be really dumb and essentially asking her to walk all over you. Am I the jerk for not reminding my coworker about a problem she might run into for a project we were working on? Because once she submitted her work and it got sent right back to her, she tried to blame me for her mess up despite the fact that I did try to warn her early on. And now I honestly just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm 25 years old and I have a coworker I work pretty closely with. She's generally nice, but she can be pretty dismissive when she feels confident about something. A couple of weeks ago, we were both involved in a project that had a deadline with a specific requirement that's easy to overlook if you're not used to it. I've dealt with it before, so I mentioned it to her early on just as a heads up. Now, she just kind of waved it off and said, "Oh, I already knew what I was doing," and went on to say that she didn't need help with that part. It wasn't rude exactly, but it was was pretty clear that she didn't want input, so I just dropped it. As the deadline got closer, I noticed that she was still missing that requirement. I thought about bringing it up again, but I didn't want to come across as pushy or like I didn't trust her to handle her own work, especially after she had already brushed me off the first time, so I just didn't really say anything. When the project was submitted, that exact issue caused it to get sent back for revisions. It wasn't a disaster, but it did create extra work and some stress for her. Afterwards, she realized I had mentioned it before, and then actually asked me why I didn't remind her when I saw it was still missing. But I explained that I didn't want to overstep after she made it clear she didn't want input. But she said, oh, there's a difference between respecting boundaries and just letting someone mess up when you could easily prevent it, especially since we're supposed to be working as a team. And now as a result, honestly, things are a bit awkward, and I'm starting to wonder if I should have just said something again anyways. So seriously, am I the jerk for not reminding her a second time? Because honestly, I'm not sure if I made a mistake by saying nothing. Okay, seriously, I just can't stand people like this where they're like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, but you don't need to remind me of that. I already know what I'm doing. And it's like they have this weird false confidence, almost like a performative confidence, that they really feel the need to like throw in everybody's face at any chance they get. So personally, I don't think there's any problem with this backfiring in her face, especially after you tried to help her out. Like sometimes with people like this is like the only way they can learn, and in my opinion, I don't think you did anything wrong. Am I the jerk for telling my coworker that I don't want to have a workplace relationship with her simply because she's a coworker and I don't want to muddy the water? And at this point, I'm honestly not sure if I made a mistake and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so I've been working in this company for about 3 years, and this particular coworker started maybe like a year after me as an intern. I didn't talk to her that much at first, but then she started making a lot of efforts to engage me in conversation. She would come to my desk for no reason, just to ask me how I'm doing and all this other stuff, which I work in a part of the building that is almost entirely empty at that time of the day. So she was really going out of her way just to try and talk to me. I was always polite and engaged with her conversations, but I kept it focused on work mostly. It was fairly obvious she was awkwardly trying to flirt at times, and I thought it was cute. She's a pretty girl, she's my type physically, but I just don't usually date coworkers as I've had negative experiences with it in the past, and I'm not looking to risk my job in this economy. So that was the nature of our relationship for several months. We would just have these little conversations, and she would often seem disappointed that I didn't make more of an effort to meet her energy, which I felt bad about, but again, I was just trying to be appropriate at work. She wasn't doing anything wrong, and the flirting was mostly subtle stuff that wouldn't bother anyone if they weren't interested. More like she just kept trying to like gauge my interest. I never intended for it to go any further than that, but things did get a little bit out of hand at the company Christmas party this past December. This is always off-site, usually in like the ballroom of a fancy hotel, and I ended up sitting with her as my usual work friends just didn't attend. We naturally got into more casual conversation than would usually happen at work. We had some wine, and then at the end of this, we ended up sleeping together after the party. Now, I should clarify, neither of us were drunk, it's just that drinking made us loosen up just a little bit, so the mutual attraction got a little more obvious than it is at work. I then gave her my personal number after that, as I didn't want her to think that I just wanted to, spend the night with her, and then just intend to go back to like mostly brushing her off. But admittedly, I started to regret it the next day as I still did not want a relationship with her. We saw each other every now and then outside of work over the next couple of months. We did spend more time together, if you know what I mean, and she stayed at my place a couple of times, but it was clear that she was expecting me to make things official, and I just kept delaying that conversation as long as I could. Now, I like her well enough, and I do think she would make a good girlfriend if we weren't coworkers, though she's also a little young for a serious relationship, so I'm not really sure in general. I regret the whole thing, and I will admit I should have put a lid on it sooner, but that was just some poor judgment on my part. Finally, I decided to do the right thing and have this talk with her. I assured her that she's great and that I'm not disinterested in her, but that I didn't think it would be good for us to be in a relationship due to our work relationship. I'm not her boss, and in fact, I work in a totally different and like separate department, but I do outrank her in a sense, and work relationships are generally messy. I just don't want to deal with that potential drama, and I'm sure she wouldn't either if she were like more experienced with workplace relationships. Now, I will say she was nice about it. She didn't freak out or anything, but it was clearly very hurtful, and I felt really bad for it. She said she understood and she wouldn't make it awkward at work, but that she also just didn't get it because she thought I liked her after the past few months, which I assured her that I did and that it wasn't anything to do with her. So seriously, did I do the right thing here? Am I really being the jerk and maybe like overthinking the whole workplace angle? I'm honestly not sure what to do, and I worry that I'm kind of screwing things up. Okay, I've got to be honest here, dude. I think you really could, like, have a relationship with her and still make it work. Like, you guys did sleep together and, like, are still able to get your job done. So you being like, I just don't want to cross the line and have a relationship at work. It's like, dude, you've gone to, like, one of the furthest links you could possibly go to with a coworker. Like, why not just make things official? You've already said, oh yeah, she'd be a good girlfriend, but I can't do that. She's a coworker. Like, dude, I think you're making a terrible mistake here. Like, think about it. You work in the opposite ends of the office. You don't even work in the same departments. You're not her boss, and you're so far removed from each other that you can hardly even be called coworkers. So I really think this could work if you wanted it to. But also, this could easily be interpreted from the girl as like, oh yeah, you're just leading me on. You just wanted to sleep around, and now that the thrill of it's done, you're like, okay, I don't want a relationship. And that really sucks for her because it's like, dude, obviously she went out of her way to get to know you. She was trying to talk to you and get to know you, and you're now just blowing her off after, sleeping with her so many times for like several months. Like, I don't know. I think this is just a stupid way of handling this, and I think you really should reconsider, but in my opinion, it might be too late. I think the damage is already done, and if I was in her shoes, I would definitely move on and not look back. Today, I caught my girlfriend once again talking to another man she's talked to in the past, as I recovered some sketchy photos from her Snapchat history that basically prove that, yeah, she was talking to this guy. And now I'm honestly not sure what to do with our relationship, and I really just don't know where to go from here. Here's what's happening. Okay, I'm struggling with what to do because we both love each other a lot, but I've really kind of hit my breaking point. Basically, I've trusted my girlfriend with a guy she claimed was just a friend for a long time. She broke my trust regarding him multiple times in the past, but I always forgave her because I really just wanted to make it work. Well, yesterday I caught her talking with him again, and at first she wouldn't even dare show me the chats. She eventually told me that she deleted his contact and all their chats to cut him off for good. She came over to my place, begged me not to break up, and insisted that she wanted to start over and do whatever it takes. She even offered an open phone policy and shared all her passwords, saying that I could finally trust her. Because she had already deleted everything, I asked her to do a Snapchat data export to see the history. And I think she agreed only because she assumed that since the chats were deleted, the export wouldn't show anything. But my God, she was completely wrong. While we were looking through the exported files together, we saw a topless photo of the guy. And the second it popped up, her entire energy changed. She didn't apologize or explain. She just closed the photos, started packing her things, and said, I don't feel like I want to stay here anymore. I don't feel comfortable. She literally went from begging for a second chance to running away the moment the sanitized version of her story was proven false. I then got angry and I told her to get out and never show her face again. Now, here's the thing. This is not the first time this has happened. It's always a reoccurring pattern with this one specific friend. She sent me a long text later admitting that she didn't set boundaries and was deceiving herself, and yet she still tried to hide the actual evidence until the very last second. At this point, I'm torn because of our history and the love that we have for each other, but I seriously feel like I was played. So seriously, is there any coming back from this when she only offers honesty as long as she thinks she won't get caught? What should I do? Oh my God, I am so exhausted with people like this where they're like, oh my God, my girlfriend cheated on me. I really just, oh my God, I love her so much. We have such a good history together. She's only chatting with this one guy over and over again. And sure, I forgive her over and over again, but like, I can't break up with her. What should I do? Bro, she's gonna keep doing this. This is not even the first time she's done this. She lies to you about him and then she comes running back. And the second she actually is exposed, she tries to be like, oh, I'm the victim. I gotta get out of here. I don't feel comfortable. And it's like, yeah, I wonder why you don't feel comfortable. Oh, maybe it has to do with the fact that you're guilty. And on top of that, you keep bringing her back. You literally keep saying, oh, let's just like let it go. It's fine. I just forgive you. It's totally okay. Don't worry, baby. I know you won't go back to this guy again. And then you just rinse, cycle, and repeat, and it just keeps happening over and over again. So please, to the original poster, have some self-respect, my dude. Get this lady out of your life and find someone who actually cares about you, because this lady is not it. She's going to keep talking to this friend of hers, and she's never going to admit when she's wrong. And that, in my opinion, is the mark of someone I would never want to be in a relationship pretty much ever in my life. Today, I discovered that my wife has been poisoning my coffee after I caught her red-handed slipping a powdery mix from an unmarked vial into my morning coffee. But now, after going to the hospital and reporting her to the police, I'm now trying to figure out what's wrong with me and what she put in my system. Because right now, I'm scared, I'm paranoid, and I'm very much in fear for my life. And I now just don't know what to do about this situation. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show on the internet where you can find out just how bad somebody's wife can be. Because holy crap, the wife in this story is crazy, and my god, just strap in, it gets weird really quick. Slap the subscribe button to never miss a video and turn on notifications by clicking the bell. Let's get started. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm very shaken up by this, and I seriously need some advice. My wife and I have been married for 4 years, and we've been together overall for about 7. She's always been so kind, always making my morning coffee, and we've had a really good life together. English isn't my first language, I mean, I speak it well, but sometimes I struggle to explain feelings, so please, just bear with me. For the past few weeks, I've been feeling off after drinking my coffee. I would feel dizzy, nauseous, sometimes my hands would be shaking, and I thought maybe it's work stress or something that I ate. But 2 days ago, I came home early, and I saw my wife in the kitchen dropping some kind of powder into my coffee mug from a small, unmarked vial. It wasn't sugar, and it definitely wasn't creamer. It looked strange, like medicine or worse. When she saw me, she slipped the vial into her pocket and said it was just a new coffee mix. But her voice was shaky, and she wouldn't look at me. Well, that evening, I asked her calmly to tell me what it was, and she said it was a natural supplement to help me feel better, but she couldn't say what it was or why there was no label. At this point, I got scared. I mean, these symptoms I've been having aren't normal, and she's never hidden things from me before. I told her I needed some space to think, and I asked her to stay at her mom's place for just a few days. She then got upset and started crying and said that I was overreacting and breaking her trust. Well, she left last night, and now she's texting me saying it was nothing harmful and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I kept the vial, but I'm too nervous to test it out. I mean, I love her. She's my everything, but I'm scared she might be putting something bad in my coffee. So am I overreacting for asking her to leave? I can't sleep, and I keep checking the locks on the door because I feel really paranoid in my own home. What should I do? Before we go any further, and my god, I've got so much I want to say about this, the original poster has some updates, and this is what they had to say. Okay, I was really hesitant, but I decided to call 911, and they said they would look into this. I'm feeling worse each day, I'm feeling dizzy, weak, and my stomach is still off. So I'm heading to the hospital today to get checked out. My wife keeps texting me and begging me to come back and saying it was just an herbal energy boost that she found online, but she still can't explain why she hid it from me. But I told her to stay at her mom's house until I get more information. Well, fast forward, and I went to the hospital, and the doctors ran some tests and said there's something off in my blood work, but they don't know exactly what yet. They're sending samples to a lab, and it will take a couple of days just to get the results. They told me to stay here for observation because my symptoms, my dizziness, my nausea, and my shaking is honestly kind of concerning. So basically, it's getting worse very quickly. I gave the vial to the police when they stopped by earlier, and they're currently testing it. They didn't say much, but their serious faces freaked me out. My wife keeps calling and texting me, sobbing, saying she's so sorry and that it was just an herbal remedy from a friend to help me out. But she is still dodging my questions about why she hid it, and it's making my head spin. I then told her that we can't talk until I'm out of here and I know what's going on. She's at her mom's place still, but her text messages are so frantic, it's honestly breaking my heart. I love her, but I just don't think I can ever trust her ever again. I'm stuck in this hospital bed and I feel so alone, and at this point I still just don't know what to do. Holy crap, your wife tried to poison you, dude. That's crazy. That's honestly the only thing I can think of here is that, yeah, your wife tried to poison you and take you out. And it's like, oh, it's just an herbal remedy to help you out? Yeah, who's helping you out? A friend that doesn't like you? Someone who's trying to like eliminate you from the picture so she can marry someone else? And also, how could she not identify what she put in your coffee? And also, who carries around a small vial of random powder and then have the audacity to be like, oh, I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. But it's just like, you know, an herbal supplement. It's not a big deal. You're overreacting. Never mind the fact that the original poster is literally in the hospital seeing stars. They're like, holy crap, my head's spinning. I feel like I'm dying. And the wife is like, I love you so much. Stop overreacting. Please take me back. So yeah, dude, I think you need to like really figure out what's going on here. And I wouldn't go anywhere near this lady until I knew exactly what was put in that coffee. Because holy crap, this is incredibly scary. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Today, I messed up by trying to fake being sick just to get out of work. But instead of being out for one day, I'm now out the entire week, as pretty much everybody in management is convinced that I really am super sick and they don't want to spread it to anyone else in the office. And at this point, I'm like kind of blown away and I don't know what to do with myself. Here's what happened. Okay, so I woke up already annoyed and I saw my schedule and I was like, yeah, no chance I'm dealing with people today. This is like not even a real reason, but just one of those days where everything feels like too much, and instead of pushing through, I go, nah, I'm just gonna call in sick. I almost never do this, by the way, so I figured it's not really a big deal. So I text my manager something like, hey, I've got a stomach bug, so I'm gonna stay home today. Nothing dramatic, honestly. He then replies by saying, oh man, that sucks. Okay, well, feel better soon. And I'm like, okay, cool, mission accomplished. I'm going right back to bed. But then at around noon, he texts me again, asking if I can hop on a quick call with human resources because apparently a few people have had similar symptoms this week and they want to check if something's going around the office. And I'm already like, oh, okay, this is more than I signed up for, but whatever, sure, I'll jump on the call. So I get on the call trying to sound low energy, but not like I'm dying or anything like that. And it's at this moment they start asking questions, like actual detailed questions, saying, oh, when did you start having symptoms? Do you have a fever? Yes or no? What did you eat? Did it cause you to get sick? Have you been around these specific coworkers? And I'm sitting there like, oh crap, this turned into an interview. And instead of backing out, I just started improvising like an idiot, saying, oh yeah, I've got nausea, I've got cramps, yeah, like the whole package. They asked me about my fever and I go, yeah, probably didn't check, but I kind of felt like it, which in hindsight was the dumbest possible thing I could say. Because suddenly they're like, okay, we really need to log this properly. You shouldn't come back until you're 48 hours symptom free. And my brain just goes like, wait, what? No, hold on, that's not what I wanted. Then my manager jumps in like, yeah, let's just be safe and take the rest of the week if needed. And I'm just sitting there muted thinking to myself, okay, great. I just promote myself from, oh, I don't feel like working today to full-blown biohazard. And now I'm stuck at home trying to figure out how fast I can recover without it looking suspicious, while people keep texting me saying stuff like, hey bro, are you doing okay? In fact, one of my coworkers even offered to bring me soup. And right now I feel like garbage because now I'm lying and I'm getting sympathy. And the worst part is I actually needed the hours this week. Like I didn't even think that far ahead. So yeah, now I'm in this weird spot where I either commit to being sick for real, like method acting this whole thing, or I show up too soon and look like I'm completely full of crap, all because I didn't feel like dealing with one shift. And at this point, I don't really know what to do. Bro, I am like absolutely on the original poster side. I've been there so many times it's not even funny, where you look at your schedule and it's like, oh my god, I don't want to be here right now, this sucks. And I've taken the route of being like, oh yeah, I'm sick, oh my stomach hurts, oh I've got a cough, I gotta stay home. And usually that works, especially if you use the diarrhea word. If you say, oh yeah, my stomach hurts and I have diarrhea, suddenly they're like, oh yeah, you need to stay home, do not come into work. Or at least that's how my manager was. I don't know about anyone else. But I couldn't imagine if suddenly human resources is calling me up and being like, okay, tell me in detail what happened. As if this is like a crime scene. Like, dude, I'm just playing hooky from work. It's not that serious. And I'm not really that sick. Oh, wait, I just lost my whole week of work? Great. So yeah, this is quite the pickle. I'm sorry you're going through this, but dude, I would hard commit. I would absolutely say, yeah, I'm sick and I have to stay out for the whole week and not even risk getting caught because, dude, getting caught would be the worst possible scenario. You would be outed as a liar and these people would probably never believe you ever again. Did I overreact for dumping my boyfriend? All because of the way I saw him and the rest of his family treat his mom during Christmas. Because I've had a few months to think about it and I'm not sure if I made a mistake, and at this point I don't really know what else to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was dating my boyfriend, who I will call Jordan, for just over a year when all of this happened. This last Christmas, he said his family was doing the holidays and he invited me to come along. Now, my parents are divorced and most of my siblings were with their in-laws, so I agreed and came along. I was terrified for the official meet the family, but it had to happen at some point, so we packed up and drove a few hours to his parents' house. We got there on the 23rd and it was lovely. I want to be clear, his family was kind and welcoming and had lots of energy. Their home was beautiful and filled with loving family stuff like photos on the wall and decor everywhere, but the thing that got me kind of annoyed at first was how they treated his mom. She was absolutely delightful and warm. Nobody was mean to her, but I realized after the first dinner it was a traditional setup where she set the table, made the meal and cleaned up while everybody just kind of like went to the living room to watch a movie. For some background, I was raised in a tiny religious town with assumed gender roles. The religion was really awful too towards women, and I was parentified as the oldest of 5. I was an awkward kid and I read a lot in my free time, which made me more open-minded, and I started to feel trapped by my predefined mold pretty young. The average marriage age where I'm from is like 19 years old, and I knew early on that didn't really really work for me, and I certainly didn't want to give up more than I already had raising more kids. Jordan always understood this, but I can't admit now that we never had a strict conversation about it, and to me, a year of dating was still kind of early to decide on forever. Anyways, I got frustrated pretty early with how Jordan kind of like started acting like a kid again, because he wanted to show me where he had some stuff as a kid and seemed really happy to be home. He would ask his mom for snacks or to go get stuff for him, and never once help with all the work that goes into hosting. Jordan is the middle child, so we're all adults, but I was the only one helping his mom with anything while he was away doing his own thing. He kind of abandoned me, and it definitely felt that way, and just assumed I was fine and dandy in his family home, even when I was doing dishes or something like that. He never helped out, and I was left feeling awkward in someone else's house. By Christmas, I was frustrated, and when we would go to his room at night, he would talk about how he wanted a home as an adult just like his parents, and how perfect it was. And I'd say, yeah, no kidding. That's because you haven't lifted a finger. He always helped with odds and ends at my apartment, but now he acted like everything was just happening by magic. I got really upset when his mom, after an absolutely lovely Christmas where his parents even got me gifts, still worked the whole time, and then talked about how her favorite family tradition was watching It's a Wonderful Life. After dinner, his family went and put it on the TV, and that's when I watched her look around and realized there was still so much cleaning left to do. And she and I just cleaned everything while everyone enjoyed his mom's favorite Christmas film. Like seriously, how messed up is that? Nobody even thought to ask why she hadn't come to watch it. His mom was lovely the whole time, and we had some good chats, but going home the next day, I had a sour taste in my mouth. Jordan then made a comment like, oh, it seems like you had a good Christmas. This should be what we look forward to in our future. And when he said that, I got really angry. I told him he had a great time because he acted like a 12-year-old and all the work was done by his mom. I asked him who he thought was going to make amazing meals and decorate everything and keep stuff running, and he just kind of blew it off by saying something like, oh, it's not too hard. Christmas is about enjoying the small stuff. He then told me his mom liked that kind of thing, and I said bluntly that I didn't. I spent a lot of the holiday helping her out, and he actually got annoyed and said, well, it seemed like you were having fun. And at this point, I was kind of turned off. I hated how the men in my family would eat and then go do their own things, and the women did all the work on the back end. He told me again, it's not that big of a deal, and how of course he would help out, but I didn't really trust how he didn't seem to understand how there is constantly stuff that needs done. Now, I took a week to think it over, but I was so turned off by his take on things that I just broke up with him. I tried to explain, but he never got it, and seemed to take away that I was ending things because I didn't like his family, which is just not true. It's been a few months, so I've had time to reflect, and I want to know if I'm overreacting about any of this. My friend pointed out that going to his parents isn't the same as being in your own home as an adult, and I hadn't ever really given him a chance to like step up as an equal because we never really lived together. So was I seeing a red flag that wasn't really that big of a deal, or am I justified in some way? Because right now I don't know if I made a mistake by breaking up with him. What should I do? Okay, dude, I hate this so much because I can't imagine this happening to my mom. Seriously, that would piss me off if I saw my mom getting neglected like that, because I would immediately get up and be like, okay, people, if you're not going to clean up, then I'll help clean up. Seriously, this is some toxic energy that I just don't agree with, because this guy's trying to sit there and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to my parents' house and don't worry about my mom. She enjoys cleaning everything up. Like, no, dude, no one enjoys cleaning everything up. That's crazy. It'd be different if it was like an act of service or you're trying to be kind for somebody, but it seems like the mom's just kind of like reduced to like the maid of the house, and that sucks, especially on Christmas, dude. Like, what are we doing? So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all for like breaking up with him, and I don't think you overreacted. Clearly, this is what he would have expected you to do if you guys got married, which is not something that you or anybody else would want to deal with. So good for you. I think you made the right choice, and I think you absolutely are in the right for kicking him to the curb, because those vibes, dude, you gotta trust your gut sometimes. And in my opinion, I think you got it right. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate that she should go to her bedroom while I have friends over, after she literally complained about us having a game night, even though she knew we were gonna have this like weeks in advance? Because now she's not even talking to me and she's being very passive aggressive and very petty. And at this point, I just don't know what to do about this because I am seriously pissed off. Here's basically where it all started. Okay, so I've lived with my roommate, who I will call Sarah, for the past 8 months. We're both around the same age, so in our early 20s, and Sarah and I were friends for a couple of years before before we decided to move in together. And up until last night, we've had very few issues. Our house is a common hangout spot for our friends, and that's never been a problem. We just let each other know if we're having people over. Well, a few days ago, a couple of my friends and I made plans to have a board game night at my house. I let Sarah know, and she said that would be fine. When I got home from class yesterday, though, I saw that Sarah was studying at the kitchen table, which is right next to the living room where we would be hanging out. I reminded her about the game night, and she acknowledged that yeah, she knew about it. Well, about an hour later, my friends arrived. We put on some light music and began playing our game, and as time passed, I noticed out of the corner of my eye that Sarah was looking annoyed. She was sighing and talking under her breath, and I thought she was just frustrated with her schoolwork, and so I didn't pay much attention to it. But after a while, my friend went outside to smoke, leaving just Sarah and I alone. Sarah then said to me, "Do you think you guys could keep it down for a bit? All this noise is really distracting me while I'm trying to study." And this really surprised me, as I didn't think we were being too loud at all. I mean, we were just talking at normal volume and playing our music softly. I then told her, "I don't think we're being unreasonable. I gave you a heads up that we're going to be having a game night, and you chose to study in the kitchen. If you want a quieter environment, you can just go to your room." Sarah then said to me, "Why should I have to go to my room? I was here first. You guys should play the game in your room." But I said, well, common areas of a house are for hanging out with other people, and if you're studying out here, then you may have to deal with some noise. If you want peace and quiet, that's what your bedroom's for. I don't think it's fair for us to move our entire game into my room just because you want to do homework out here. Sarah then said to me, "Well, since when do we have to make all these rules about where I can and can't be in the house?" But I said back to her, "I'm not telling you where you can and can't be. I'm just saying that if you want to hang out in the living area, then there's probably going to be other people around." Sarah then said to me, "Fine, have it your way." Then she picked up her laptop and stormed to her room. My friends eventually came back in and we finished the game, and I didn't see Sarah for the rest of the night. Now, I really thought things would have blown over by this morning, but that was absolutely not the case. When I went to the kitchen to make breakfast, Sarah was already there. She said, "Oh, sorry, am I allowed to be here? Since, you make all the rules now." But I said to Sarah, "Look, that's not what I meant, and you know it." But she took her coffee and stormed off to her room, and she hasn't talked to me ever since. Now, I don't think I was being unreasonable last night, but Sarah seems to be really upset. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what else to do. No, Sarah's being stupid in this situation. Dude, you literally gave her a heads up. You said, "Hey, we're gonna be making noise in the living room. We're having a game night, meaning we're gonna make noise." Because who's gonna have a game night and just sit there silently staring at each other? Like, no, that's not gonna happen. That's weird. We're gonna scream and shout and probably laugh together because yeah, we're friends. So for Sarah to sit there and almost purposefully sit at the kitchen table and be like, "Guys, I'm trying to study." Bro, how performative. Just get a grip and go into your room. You know we're trying to have a good time, and you know we're gonna make noise. So sitting there and trying to be like, "I'm trying to study. You guys gotta be quiet." That's obnoxious. I think that's incredibly stupid, and I would hate to deal with that. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my friend fix a contract mess he got into after he not only ignored my warnings, but also mocked me openly in front of my friends for trying to get him to slow down? Because now his entire life is a mess exactly as I predicted, and now he's in a rut and he expects me to help him get out of it. But with all things considered, I just don't think this is my problem, and I seriously just don't want to be involved. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I'm the person in my friend group who reads the fine print. I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but I just work in a field where I deal with contracts all the time. So people have gotten used to sending me stuff before they sign it. Apartment leases, gym cancellations, vendor agreements, random freelance paperwork. I think you get the idea. I usually don't mind helping if someone actually wants advice. Well, a few months ago, one of my friends was super excited about launching a small side business with another guy he barely knew. He sent me their partnership agreement and asked if it looked fine. Well, I read it and I told him very clearly that it was not fine. There were huge problems with how profits were split, how expenses were tracked, and there was a clause that basically let the other guy make decisions without him if my friend didn't respond fast enough. I told him, "Look, you gotta slow down. You need to get things clarified in writing and at minimum not sign that version of it." But he laughed and said I was doing my usual doom spiral thing and that not everything has to be treated like a hostage negotiation. Well, he signed it anyways. And then for weeks, he kept making little jokes in front of people about how I want everyone to live in a padded legal bunker sucker. Well, now the partnership is blowing up exactly how I said it would. The other guy made purchases my friend didn't approve of, he's claiming a bigger cut, and he's now pointing to the contract for everything. My friend then called me in a panic and wanted me to go through all the emails, help him draft a response, and basically walk him through this entire mess. But you know what? I told him no. I already gave my help when he asked for it, and I'm not spending my weekend cleaning up something he mocked me for warning him about. Now, a couple of people think that I'm being petty because he's stressed enough already, and maybe I am, but I also feel like people only value my help when it saves them. So am I really the jerk here? Because I don't know what to do. I'm honestly kind of pissed off, and I really just want to get away from this. Dude, your friend sucks. Like, honestly. Like, if this guy's gonna come to you and be like, hey, can you check this over? And then you explain that, holy crap, there's a giant loophole here that you need to be careful of, and he not only ignores it, but then makes fun of you for it, like at that point, I would be done with him completely. I wouldn't help him with anything. I would look the other way and be like, okay, have fun struggling. Don't come crying to me because I'm not gonna help out. Because dude, you don't do that to somebody. You don't disrespect them like that. That is really rude and very unfair. Like, you didn't have to help him out. You didn't have to step up and be like, okay, I'll look at your contract. You could have looked the other way and said, no, have fun, I'm not helping you. So the fact that you literally gave him some solid advice and now it's all blowing up in his face because he didn't listen to you is honestly so ironic, because it's like, dude, if you didn't listen to me the first time, how on earth am I supposed to like expect you to listen to me the second time? So yeah, you're not the jerk, your friend sucks, and I would absolutely not help him out. My entitled best friend literally abandons me and strands me 4 hours away from home after she gets offended over something I said. But now, after having to get a same-day flight home, I am now demanding that she pay the $800 I spent just so I could get home in one piece, because I am seriously pissed off at this and I don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where best friends can turn on you at the drop of a hat. And my god, this first story is a doozy, so strap in for this one. Also, please subscribe to Am I the Jerk. You don't want to miss a video. We've got some really good ones coming up. So click the bell to turn on notifications and let's get started. Okay, so my friend and I, who I will call Becky, have been friends for like 20 years. In high school, we became close friends with two people who I will call Ryan and Daniel, and the four of us did everything together. It's important to note that Becky has always been fixated on Ryan. If he liked a girl, she would tear this girl apart, or just make passive-aggressive comments until it was uncomfortable. When Ryan had girlfriends, she would openly criticize them, and then act like they weren't good enough for him. And you know what? Eventually, she started doing the same thing to me. She would make comments to downplay my friendship with Ryan, or just like subtly compare us. Like she needed to prove that she mattered more. It felt competitive for no reason, but you know what? I just ignored it for years. Well, fast forward to Ryan's wedding last month. Becky and I drove together and shared a hotel, and the passive-aggressive comments started all over again. She said to me, oh, you wouldn't even be at the wedding if it wasn't for me. Even going as far as to say things like that in front of other people. Later in the hotel, she complained that Ryan did not spend enough time with her. She actually said, sorry to you and Daniel, but he should at least want to spend time with me. After years of this, I finally snapped and said, what a weird thing to say out loud. She then immediately escalated and said, oh, what? You really think that Ryan and I aren't better friends? And then brought up that he had asked her to design the engagement ring. I then said, well, I don't really care who's closer, but it's weird that you care this much. It's not our fault that you're in love with him. When I said this, she stormed out, and instead of coming back, she drove off and left me stranded for 4 hours away with no way of getting back. The next morning, I couldn't rent a car because all I had was my debit card, so my only option was a same-day flight back to where I live across the country, which literally cost me $800. I sent her an angry text message and a Venmo request, and she hasn't responded, and we haven't spoken in like a month. Now, I will admit it, saying that she's in love with him was really harsh, and the text I sent after was not my best moment in my life. But am I really the jerk here for like saying something that went too far? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, dude, let me tell you something to anybody listening. Anytime a friend acts like this where they're weirdly competitive, and I would say about anything, this is a very clear sign that they are not your friend. They see you as a rival or at worst as an enemy. Because dude, what is going on right now? Becky is clearly still in love with Ryan even though he's getting married and you're attending the wedding. And for me, like dude, I understand you're just gonna let it go because you're like, okay, this is not that big of a deal to me. But clearly it's a big deal to Becky. She's out here being like, wow, I'm a better friend than you you are. Ryan likes me more than he likes you. And it's like, dude, I don't care. I don't think about this at all. Like, why do you care about Ryan so much? And the answer is that this lady still likes him. She's in love with him and she's pissed off that, oh yeah, Ryan's marrying someone else. And I don't think there's anything wrong with you calling that out. Holy crap, look at the way she's acting on the wedding day. Like, that's weird, bro. This is his wedding. He's not obligated to talk to you. Like, what's going on right now? So personally, I think you sending like a Venmo request of $800 is the least you can do because, dude, I would be blowing up her phone. I would be driving to her house, banging on the door, being like, do you know what you just did to me? You literally stranded me 4 hours away from home. Are you kidding right now? Not to mention telling everybody I know about this. Like, you don't just do that to somebody. That's incredibly disrespectful, especially when you're going on a group trip like this. Like, there's an inherent trust that, yeah, we're both gonna get back in one piece and we're all gonna get back at the same time. You don't abandon people like that just because you're upset. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Becky's a complete moron. And in my opinion, she absolutely owes you the money for that plane ticket. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for accidentally throwing away my roommate's art project, all while I was just trying to deep clean our communal kitchen? Because right now my roommate's pissed off at me and said I had no right, even though the stuff she was trying to hang on to literally looked like and smelled like garbage. Because right now I really am kind of at a loss and I don't know what to do. I'm a 24-year-old female and I live with my roommate who I will call Sarah. Sarah is obviously a fake name in this story. We generally get along well, but we have very different standards when it comes to cleanliness. I prefer a tidy space while Sarah tends to be more organized chaos, if you know what I mean. Last weekend, Sarah was away visiting her parents, and I decided to do a deep clean of the common areas as a surprise. While cleaning the kitchen, I found a stack of about 15 empty jars, mostly full of pasta sauce and jam jars, all just piled on the corner of the counter. They hadn't been washed out properly, and some still had sticky residue and old labels clinging to them. In fact, they'd been sitting there for over 2 weeks, and I noticed a few fruit flies starting to circle the area. Now, assuming they were just recycling that Sarah had forgotten to take out, I scrubbed the counter and I put all the jars in the bin. Well, when Sarah got home yesterday, she immediately asked where her jars were, and I told her I'd cleaned the kitchen up and I recycled them. When I said this, she became very upset, explaining that she had specifically collected those shapes and sizes for a mixed media art project she's planning for a gallery submission. She said I had no right to touch her belongings and that I've now set her project back by weeks because she has to source the materials all over again. She says that even if the jars looked like trash to me, they were in a common area we both pay for, and I should have texted her before throwing anything away that wasn't mine. She feels I overstepped and ruined her creative process, and honestly at this point, I really don't know if I'm the jerk or not, and I just don't know how to fix this. Okay, I'm gonna say this outright. Sarah's an idiot. You're definitely not the jerk. You know how she's like, wow, that's in the common area. I can't believe you threw that away. But it's like, bro, I live here too, man. If you're gonna keep a pile of trash in the corner and not communicate with me like, hey, I'm keeping this for an art project, then guess what? I'm gonna throw it away. What are we talking about? Like, how could she possibly be mad at this? You didn't know this was for some stupid art project, and even if it was, that's her responsibility to take care of it and to clean it properly. Like, there are flies crawling all over it, and it's just getting gross and like, ew. Like, no thank you, dude. I'm not gonna live in that kind of environment. I'm gonna throw it away and be like, okay, well, have fun. I guess you're sent back for a few weeks. Because if you're gonna leave your crap on the counter, then I'm gonna get rid of it. Like, why would I keep it? Especially objects that absolutely can be interpreted as garbage. Like, it fits the bill. It smells bad. There's flies on it. The jars are gross and sticky and just like covered in residue. Like, what are we talking about right now? So no, you're not the jerk. Your roommate is really dumb for not taking care of her stuff. And in my opinion, I think you're completely justified throwing it away and cleaning the area. An entitled Karen refuses to parent her child, resulting in their 3-year-old wreaking havoc in my house, which, if I'm being honest, is something I never expected to happen because it happened so suddenly. Here's basically how it all went down. Okay, so we have this neighbor with a small child that is about the same age as my 3-year-old, so I'm assuming he's maybe about 3 years old as well. And it has literally happened twice where this boy escapes and is running barefoot and free across everyone's yards. Now, the mom just follows behind saying, no, you need to come back home, stop stop running from mommy. And the whole time she's laughing like it's a game, not speaking in any kind of like assertive tone. It's like she's accidentally encouraging this game the child is playing. So for the third time, today this child comes out of nowhere, no mom in sight, while me and my 3-year-old are outside. And you know what? I figured he wanted to play with my child, but instead, he just runs around grabbing things, trying to get into our toy chest while also hopping on our toy car thing. After about 3 minutes, I asked him, "Hey, does your mom know you're here?" And he just looks at me and says, "No." Then finally, I hear his mom calling him, and she comes from the opposite direction this kid came from. She then walks across our yard saying, "Come on, buddy, this isn't your stuff, let's go." And this kid is just not listening and just running around. Meanwhile, my kid is watching and like trying to play with this kid, but he just doesn't care about that either. I then step back and I let his mom try to get her kid, and she walks closer and says something like, "Come on, buddy, let's go home." But then this child starts walking up the stairs to my front door right in front of the mom within arm's reach. But she's still standing there talking to this 3-year-old while he's smiling and not caring about her at all. And I gotta say, at this moment, I was naive because I really thought that she would stop him and grab him before he got too far. But holy crap, I was wrong. This kid opens the door and just walks straight into my house. And this mom immediately looks at me like she's shocked, hand over her mouth, and doesn't know what to do. Our dog then starts going crazy. I mean, he left the door open. So now I'm freaking out that my dog is gonna jump on this kid or bolt. So I run in there after this child, now leaving my 3-year-old outside unattended. And now he's smiling at me, opening up cabinets in my kitchen. And I say to him, "Hey, I've got a sleeping baby in that room right there, and we have got to go back outside to mommy." And right when I say that, he starts dodging me and running around. So now I'm chasing this little boy around my tiny house, trying to herd him out the door. But now I'm thinking, how is this okay? I'm about to grab this kid and carry him outside. What if this kid screams or I hurt him somehow, trying to get him back outside? And at this point, I'm extremely uncomfortable. Eventually, he runs out the door when he has nowhere else to go. And when I finally do walk outside, the mom says to me, "Oh, he just wanted to see what your house looked like, I guess." And then she starts laughing. Then her kid proceeded to run into the next neighbor's yard, and this mom's just trailing behind him saying, "Come on, buddy, it's time to go back home." And she's saying this in like the nicest way possible. This woman is not teaching their kids boundaries at all. Like, I can't imagine my 3-year-old ever doing that, but I would be physically grabbing my kid to get them out of someone's yard, not trying to talk them out of it. And I definitely would not be letting some random woman chase my kid around her house while I stood there watching. So I don't know. I'm not sure if the kid was like special needs or something like that, but I really don't know what to do differently next time because I really hope that never happens again. Okay, in my opinion, I don't care what's going on. The second some strange kid comes into my house, all the gloves are off. I'm grabbing that kid, I'm getting him out of there, and then I'm going to scold the parent that let that happen. Seriously, dude, this kid was running all over the place. Like, this is how your kid gets hit by a car, by the way. This is the very scenario where it's like, oh yeah, you're not watching them, you're almost encouraging them to run around and run away from you. And it has everything to do with her tone of voice. Like, she's just sitting there being like, "Oh, come on, buddy, you gotta go home, it's time to go home." But it's like, dude, that's not doing anything. You need to grab the kid and bring him back inside, bro. None of this gentle parenting crap, that doesn't work. Especially for toddlers, like leave that for when they're older. If you don't have firm boundaries with these kids, they're gonna be a nightmare when they grow up. So honestly, if this was that big of a problem, I would probably like build a fence, if anything, just so your dog can run around and do whatever it wants. Because my God, the fact that this lady thought this was okay and didn't do anything about it is just baffling, and I can never understand that. Am I the jerk for being uncomfortable around my grandfather, who literally keeps asking for my dead dad's life insurance money after he passed away? Because honestly, it's becoming way too much and it's really hurtful and I just don't know what to do. Here's basically what he did. Okay, for starters, I recently just lost my father to an extremely tragic accident back in November. Now, since he had passed away due to a work accident, it took months to get a life insurance payout from his death. The company has been horrible and fighting back every way they could, even though it was completely their fault. Well, after a month or two of his passing, his father has been coming around more often than usual. My grandfather began asking about his son's tools and taking things of my dad's and just pawning them off, and overall being extremely desperate for money. So my mom had him banned from a pawn shop in our town and put up a camera doorbell and a camera in the garage just to be sure. And this is so we could know if he was at our house and just try to keep an eye on him. Now, he's been in a scam for a while by then, and even before his son's death, has been asking everyone in the family and then some for money. I'm not sure how long my father gave him money, but I do know it was for at least a month or so. And my grandfather, let's call him Alan for the sake of the story, had been sending this money in cash or in checks to someone out of the country, and basically has been sending everything to this scammer that he only knew from phone calls. I only know about this, by the way, because after my father passed, my mother began paying Alan's phone bills and has been racking the charges up with international calls. And with that, he doesn't really have much money left to pay for literally anything. So he refinanced his paid off truck and his house. But he's also been asking for money from anyone he could once again. When no one gave him the money, he then turned to my mom. And my God, every day for quite a while, he would call or stop by the house, sometimes twice a day, mind you, and ask for money. Or he would say, when am I going to get paid out for my son's death? This went on for a long time until my mom got his payout and then told a friend to give it to him and explain everything. But maybe a month or so afterwards, it was all gone. And now he keeps trying to do little things with my mom's new house and asking to get repaid for it ever since he was stealing my dad's things. I pretty much decided that I don't want to be around him anymore, and I don't really trust him, but I really feel bad since he has no one else. So am I the jerk for not wanting to be around him anymore? Like, seriously, am I really at fault for not trusting him? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, let me stop you real quick. I know you feel bad because it's like, oh man, he doesn't have anybody. But let's take a step back and realize why he doesn't have anybody, dude. He has no one because this guy's a weirdo. He's asking everybody for money. He's begging and pleading, and then he's turning around and giving it to someone overseas who's clearly scamming this guy. Like, what are we doing? That is some stupid decision making if you ask me. So honestly, I would not feel bad about it for a second if I was like, no, I'm not gonna be around this guy anymore. He makes me uncomfortable, he's taking my dead dad's stuff, and he only cares about getting money so he can send it to more scammers. Like, dude, I would never want to be around that kind of person, and I don't blame you for feeling that way. Am I the jerk for refusing to take off my engagement ring during a wedding, all because the bride and groom said that it was detracting from their ceremony, which I think is completely ridiculous, but right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so next month, I'm supposed to be attending the wedding of two people who I will call Tilly and Peter. They are friends of my fiance, and we have hung out plenty of times over the past few years. They got engaged around 18 months ago, whereas I got engaged like 3 months ago. My engagement ring is a light blue sapphire, but in photographs, however, it looks a lot darker. And yeah, this is going to be relevant later on. We met up with Tilly and Peter last weekend, which incidentally enough, was the very first time I've ever seen them in person ever since I got engaged. When they asked to see my engagement ring, Tilly noted that it was much lighter than the photos we had shared, and Peter agreed. And a little while later, after the conversation had turned to something else, Tilly asked if we remembered that the bridesmaid's dress color was a very pale blue. Now, my fiance's a groomsman, so he knew this, as he was wearing a matching tie. Peter then said that they were hoping that only the wedding party was going to wear that color, which was included on the invites. He then said that having a ring in that shade was no excuse to breaking the rules. Now, this was said humorously, so my fiance and I just both laughed, and I assured them that I'm most likely wearing something darker and not blue anyways. But that's when Tilly said that Peter was talking around the issue, and that I would not be able to wear my engagement ring at their wedding because they thought that it was too close to their shade of blue. She said that she'd already had to make sure a family member wasn't going to wear a necktie with similar gemstones for the same reason. Well, as you can imagine, a discussion ensued, as both my partner and I said that it seemed quite strong to be asking me not to wear my ring, you know, outside of sleeping or bathing. Like, I barely take it off ever since the proposal. But Tilly and Peter were insistent that I would be creating drama by wearing it, and if anything, it suggested that I was trying to steal focus away from them and the wedding party. I made it clear that I had zero intention of doing that, but also that the ring was not going to detract from a bride and groom at the end of the aisle. In fact, at one point, my partner was even accused of proposing to me as a way of taking more attention from them during their wedding timeline. And for reference, we literally got engaged on our 7-year anniversary during the middle of a once-in-a-lifetime holiday, so I'm sure it was not to detract from his friend getting married. We eventually left it at a stalemate, and I anticipate that either just me or the both of us will be de-invited, which is no real issue to me at this stage, but I really want to know, am I seriously the jerk here? Because this seems incredibly trivial and I'm not sure what to do from here. Holy crap, dude, this is some crazy behavior, dude. Like, what are we doing right now? Are they gonna really turn around and be like, wow, that ring is not allowed? Like, can you imagine if you walked in there and they're like, oh my god, your eyes are blue. You need to cover your eyes or wear colored contacts. You're detracting from my wedding. Like, my god, dude, you've got to be kidding right now. This is like the narcissist final boss. This lady really is trying to act like, oh my god, I can't believe you're detracting from my wedding by getting engaged as well. But it's like, dude, I can promise you that the original poster and their fiance fiance were not thinking about you and your stupid husband at all during that moment. And on top of that, people get engaged to other people all the time around the world. So it's not like anybody was like out to get you and like ruin your wedding. Like that is so silly and so overblown. It's just like, dude, you got to take a step back. Like maybe go take a nap or something, dude. Like what's going on right now? How can you really be that high strung over someone's engagement ring? That is such a stupid thing to get upset over. And there's also a part of me that is kind of like, okay, you want me to take it off? Fine, I'll take it off. But the second you're not looking, I'm gonna slip that bad boy right back on my finger. Because in my opinion, that's a stupid demand and there's no way I'm gonna listen to that. Am I the jerk for not believing my roommate's phobia when it comes to spiders? Because after the way she reacted recently, it honestly made me just not care anymore. And I'm starting to wonder if I might be the jerk because right now I don't know what to do anymore. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to give a disclaimer up front. I understand the seriousness of phobias. I myself have been in therapy for an irrational fear of vomiting that used to be debilitating, but this situation is completely ridiculous. For reference, I'm a 21-year-old female and I've got 2 roommates about the same age, and one roommate is scared of spiders. She claims that she has arachnophobia, and I'm not a fan of spiders myself, but it's the way she goes about it that's kind of insane. Like the other day, I was talking about how my boyfriend and I got sushi, and I said something about a spider roll, and it's here that she actually screamed out loud and said that I could only use the word arachnid and not spider around her. Another time, someone said spider, and she immediately covered her ears and started whimpering. Now, my other roommate has way more patience about this than I do, and in fact, the other day when we were coming home, there was a spider underneath our open stairs. Mind you, we live in an apartment complex with a lot of trees and plants all around us, and this is not our first encounter with spiders on the stairs. But this time, she screams and refuses to walk up the stairs itself. My other roommate blocks off the spider so that she can walk up, but she still simply won't do it. My other roommate then goes and gets the Lysol to kill the spider, and I literally watch the spider shrivel up and fall off the stairs, but even then, she will still not go up. After about 15 minutes of trying to convince her that yeah, it's okay, you can do this, my other roommate has to head out, and I just go up the stairs because I had to submit some work stuff before the end of the day. She ends up standing at the end of the stairs for like an hour before going up, and then eventually comes into the apartment and starts berating me about how she needs me to support her and her phobia, and how I was apparently being unsupportive. Now, my God, I understand phobias are real and they create significant mental blocks for people, but after her screaming at the mention of the word spider, I'm starting to think that she's just afraid of spiders and maybe overreacting. So am I the jerk, or is this arachnophobia thing actually that serious? Because I really don't know what to do. Okay, dude, your roommate is a complete idiot and just someone who's clearly looking for attention. Because if it's really that bad, then holy crap, she needs some help. And that does not involve you or your roommate stepping in and saying, okay, we're gonna take care of you. And also, by the way, it is not your responsibility to take care of her. You're not responsible for making sure she's okay. Like, dude, she needs to get over that and get up the stairs. And I'm right there with the original poster. I get that phobias can be serious, but unlike the roommate in this story, at least the original poster did something about it. They went to therapy, they got the help they needed. They did the steps necessary so that this wasn't as bad for them. So for your roommate to be like, wow, you said the word spider, now I'm scared, you have to say arachnid around me. Like, no, I'm gonna say spider as much as I want. I'm not responsible for your mental hangups. And the fact that she's trying to police that in the first place, like that is so uncalled for and so weird. And there's no way on planet Earth I would ever put up with that. My parents demand that I allow them to take my kids over to Europe for a trip without me or my husband present. But once I told them no, that's not gonna happen, they left every group chat we're a part of and have now started ghosting us. And I'm honestly scratching my head and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because right now I'm seriously not sure if I'm the jerk or not for putting my foot down and saying no. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can watch people foolishly try to reenact the movie Taken. Because dude, this first story is exactly that, so yeah, get ready for this one. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, so my parents asked me if they could take my kids, ages 7 and 9, overseas to Europe this year. Now, I said no, I'm not really comfortable with that, but they literally kept pushing, trying to guilt trip me, saying stuff like, oh, they're getting old, this will really benefit them. But I'm paranoid something bad will happen, and I'll be way too far away to do anything about it. Then they said, oh, you can come too, and so can your husband. But if we're being serious, my husband has a family business, business, so he's less likely to go. So that's seriously just not feasible. It's also really important to know that I have a history of them not respecting my decisions, my boundaries, and just being dismissive and pushing me, and even ghosting me when they don't get their way, getting mad at me just because I'm mad at them, etc. Now, in response to their invitation, this is what I said verbatim. I said to them, well, I would feel more comfortable if at least one of us is there. We do see the kids starting to get more interested in learning and the kinds of things you experience at museums, and we even hear them randomly sharing little facts that they pick up. They're also becoming a little more tolerant of hikes and like going outside. But knowing our kids right now, we think a full Europe trip would still be pretty difficult at this age with the long days and the lots of walking and trying to take in a lot of historical sightseeing. We really don't believe they have the attention span and the tolerance for that right now. So we feel it would be a better experience when they're a little older and more able to like fully enjoy and get the most out of that kind of trip. So I think we can revisit the idea then. Now, I really think that was a very fair reply, but my mom's response was to leave our family group chat about our Hawaii trip, which for reference is something we were going to be doing next month. She also left our regular family chat group with my in-laws and my brother and his wife. And it's like, okay, here we go again. And of course, I'm supposed to be the crazy one for not wanting them to take my kids to a foreign country. They do not communicate, they do not respect us as parents, they are not emotionally stable, and I just know I would say no to this or that on said trip, and they would just do it anyways because they don't respect us. They think their decisions are best. I mean, I didn't even say no to the idea in the end, I just said not yet. I haven't told the kids for months about our Hawaii trip for this very reason, because seriously, my parents might act up again. I think my mom is going to cancel our trip without saying anything again out of anger, and I guess I should just wait a couple of days and just see what she says, and then just buy our own flights and hotel and go on our own. Now, it's important to note, they ghosted us 2 years ago for months. I told them they hurt me when they acted like I wasn't being a good mother and I was upset, and I left their house in tears after I said they made me feel like a bad mother because they thought for some reason I didn't feed them well enough. And when this happened, they didn't try to console me. Instead, their response was to get upset right back at me and ignore me for months. My husband was furious. My brother and my in-laws learned of this and were shocked about their treatment of me. And there have been other incidents before this. The last time, though, was the longest ghosting they did to me, and I was very depressed. They even live extremely close by, which made it way worse. My husband was the one who reached out to them to try and fix it, and eventually they agreed they wouldn't act this way anymore. But it's like, okay, here we go again. So honestly, am I crazy here? Like, am I the jerk? Because they always make me feel like I'm going crazy and I can never trust myself, and I really just need to get confirmation because right now I'm very confused. Dude, your parents suck. This is so stupid. Honestly, this is 100% dumb. First of all, they seriously said, hey, we're gonna take your kids to Europe, and no, we're not going to invite you as well. We'll only say you're invited once you say you're paranoid and you don't think that's a good idea. Which, by the way, come in close. Hey, that's a terrible idea. Has no one seen the movie Taken? Like, I don't know about you, but I do not want to have to call up Liam Neeson just to be like, hey, can you fix this for me? Because what do you mean I'm gonna take the kids to Europe? They're old enough. They're getting old. Like, no, dude, they're 7 and 9 years old. They're not going to care for a second about Europe. They're going to go there and be like, wow, I'm dehydrating and I kind of don't want to do this anymore. Oh, we're here for 2 weeks? Yeah, that sucks. Where's my mom and dad? Oh, wait, you didn't invite them. Like, this is what they're choosing to get offended over. The fact that you're not allowing them to, like, basically endanger the lives of your kids. Like, I don't know. This seems like a really weird hill to die on, and the fact that they want to go out kicking and screaming like this and just ghosting you all because they didn't get their way, in my opinion, is all you need to know about them. Like, I'm willing to bet they'll probably cancel this trip and be like, oh yeah, we're going to cancel the Hawaii trip, all because you won't let us take your kids to Europe. Like, this is absolutely being used as a bartering chip and is like okay, well, here's your ultimatum. Either your kids go to Europe with us or we cancel the Hawaii trip. So I personally would not get my hopes up with that at all. As far as I'm concerned, until I know otherwise, that trip is canceled and I would just plan on something else. Because your parents definitely seem like the type of people to do something like that, and I would not put it past them to cancel everything just in a fit of rage. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My former employers literally pay me less than minimum wage pretty consistently across the board, as they paid us under the table and refused to pay us more than we were owed. But eventually, karma came back to bite them in the butt, as they literally went out of business less than a year later, which was incredibly satisfying to watch because this place sucked to work at, and I'm glad they're no longer in business. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was a server back in high school, I worked as a waitress at a small mom-and-pop restaurant in a rural area. And I gotta be honest, overall, it was a rough crowd. A lot of older couples who came in for breakfast breakfast or an early lunch who thought tipping meant leaving a few quarters on the table. But the worst was the owner's adult children. They had 3, and 2 of them were just awful to us. Their son was great. He came in a few times a month with his daughter, and they were always super polite, they always paid, and they tipped generously. The owner's first daughter just had bariatric surgery about a month before I started, and on a nearly daily basis, she came into the kitchen to make her pitcher of tea. It was a gallon of tea with 6 cups of sugar. She would fill up a huge tumbler with about half the pitcher, then put the other half back in the server's fridge. I always put a small post-it on the front after she left because that stuff was basically a syrup, and I didn't want one of us to accidentally serve it to an unsuspecting customer. A few times a week, she put in a big pizza order and then stand on the kitchen and watch them make it. It was always during the dinner rush, and everyone was trying to work around her. But the worst of all of them was their youngest daughter. She came in about twice a week with her 3 kids and always a crowd of friends. And usually there's about 7 of them around a table. And every time they would order a huge amount of food, multiple appetizers, entrees, and desserts. And the kids were super messy. They spilled stuff constantly. And the whole table in general was always super demanding. They often ordered steak and would be very specific on how well done they wanted it, sending it back very often if it wasn't to their liking. And guess what? She never paid a single thing. Literally, a $250 ticket would just be set aside for the owner to explain why the system's till was off. She also never tipped. Not once. She would take up an entire section of the restaurant, and whatever server got them was guaranteed to be busting their butt to keep up with demands, and pretty much just knew they weren't making money off of any of it. The other waitress I worked with was also super young, probably around 16 years old or something like that, and we always squabbled over who had to take them. That job all around was just the owners taking advantage of young, inexperienced employees. We were paid like maybe $2 an hour, and part of our job was to stay late and clean the place, including the floors and the bathrooms, not to mention hand washing all the dishes. We were also expected to come in early and organize everything we needed for the shift, and this was all for $2 an hour. And of course we were paid in cash under the table, so several nights we almost didn't even hit the minimum wage even with tips. I think I did the math one night and I had averaged like less than $4 an hour for a 7-hour shift. Well, I worked there for about a year before I quit, and they surprisingly went out of business about a year later, which honestly, when I consider everything, was probably for the best. Bro, this is a classic case of like, dude, karma came back to bite them hard. First off, if you're gonna have a business, you need to keep your family in check, especially a restaurant business, dude. Like, what is going on? Just because I work there doesn't mean I'm some kind of like indentured servant or some kind of slave. Like, what's going on, dude? That's so weird. Having your adult children come in and be like, I'm gonna order a pizza and watch you make it. Or even the other kid being like, yeah, I'm gonna rack up a bill of $250. What are you gonna do about it? It's like, dude, no wonder they went out of business. They were literally allowing this crap to happen. Now, maybe I'm a petty jerk here, but if someone was underpaying me and they were paying me under the table, dude, you better believe I would have reported them. Like, this is the time to be like, okay, I'm gonna go to whatever authority I need to and be like, yeah, they're not paying me enough. And then they would get slammed with so many fines that they probably would have been closing way sooner than like a year later. Because bro, I don't care who you are, people can't pay you less than minimum wage. That is literally the law. And they only did that because you guys were young and they're like, oh, you're not gonna make a fuss about it. But I promise you, if you did make a fuss, they would fold like a house of cards, dude. They would go back on this and be like, fine, we'll pay you what you're owed. So yeah, I'm so glad this place closed down, and I'm glad you got out of there. I know for a fact I would have not made it a year. Like, I would never work a year at that place. It just would never work out. But at least you can like chalk this up as like a really good silver lining and a good example of what not to do at a job, because these people suck and you deserved way better than that. My entitled neighbor literally uses their dog to steal any food I leave out for strays, which is something me and my wife have been doing for several years now. So, in a weird sequence of events, after complaining to the landlord about this neighbor, I soon discovered that they're now getting evicted. And I simply just can't even understand if I might be the jerk here, because I really feel like it's my fault and I'm just not sure what to make of this. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's how it all started. Okay, so my wife and I have the questionable habit of feeding strays. We have bird feeders all over our property. We put out cookies for the squirrels and leave food and water in our backyard for any strays that wander by, and the latter is the reason why I'm even writing this in the first place. So I put out a fresh bowl of dry food and a large pan of water every day between 5 and 6 in the evening. I go out every morning and I refill the water bowl, and I toss whatever food remains into my yard, usually just crumbs. A week ago, my wife took out some trash, and when she returned, she asked me if I'd forgotten to put out food. Well, I walked outside and sure enough, the food bowl was empty. Well, I'm retired, so maybe I just forgot. hot. So I refilled it and I went right back inside. Now, the thing is, it happened every night for the rest of the week. I made a point of double checking before going to bed, and the stupid bowl was always empty. Cut to the chase, and it turns out that our new neighbor had noticed our habit of leaving food out for strays. So, not wanting to turn down a boon for her budget, she was putting her little dog in a harness and lowering him over the fence separating our yards. Then she'd let out the slack of the rope until he could reach our back porch, let him empty the bowl, and then reel him back in. Once I caught her at it, we had a brief conversation, when in reality it was just me asking questions at a reasonable volume and her screaming nonsense as a reply. Well, finally I called her landlord, a friend of a friend, and I asked if he could have a word with her. Just let her know that this is not how to be a good neighbor. Well, he listened to me and what I had to say, and then he said to me, wait, she has a dog? Well, it turns out that he doesn't rent to people with dogs. Apparently you can own a cat, sure, but no, absolutely no dogs allowed in his property. Well, the landlord then drove over and caught her with her dog in the living room. And guess what? She now has 30 days to move out. And yeah, I gotta be honest, it's not my finest moment, but how was I supposed to know the guy would do that? So overall, am I the jerk in this situation? Like, did I cause my neighbor to get evicted? Because I don't really know what to make of this. No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think this is one of those scenarios where it's like, yeah, the dominoes just kind of fell towards your neighbor and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, there was clearly a chain of events here where it's like, dude, if they had just like minded their own business, then none of this would have happened. Literally, they could probably still be living there if they had just said, okay, I'm gonna do my own thing and not have my dog, oh, I don't know, Mission Impossible down over the fence and eat all the food. Like, I'm sure they knew when they signed the lease that they're not allowed to have a dog. So the fact that they tried to like pull this off and cause problems for you, only to then get evicted, is quite literally their own fault and not yours. My entitled neighbor knocked on my door in the morning on a Saturday, demanding that I don't park my car in front of my own house because apparently it blocks her view when she backs out of her driveway. But despite the fact that I'm literally not anywhere near her driveway and I'm not blocking it, she still expects me to move my car further up the street so that she doesn't see it. And honestly, I find this incredibly entitled and very annoying. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I live on a regular residential street where street parking is public and it is first come, first serve. I have a car and I park it on the street in front of my house basically every day, and I've done this for 2 years with no issue. Well, last Saturday I'm asleep, and at about 8 o'clock in the morning, someone is knocking on my door. I open it up and it's my neighbor from across the street, who I will call Linda, who I've maybe spoken to like 4 times in the past 2 years. Well, she launches literally straight into it. She says to me that my car is parked in a way that makes it hard for her to see when she backs out of her driveway. Now, I stood there for a second processing this, and I said to her, okay, but it's public parking. I'm not blocking her driveway or anything. She then says, okay, yeah, but it's a consideration that I should think about as a neighbor. I then asked her what she wanted me to do exactly, and she said she thought I could park a bit further up so that she had a clearer line of sight. Now, I want to be clear that my car is parked legally, fully on the street, literally not touching her driveway in any way, but she wants me to park further away from my own house so that she has a more comfortable reversing experience, and she's demanding this at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Well, I said to her, okay, I'll keep it in mind, and then I closed the door. And guess what? I've not moved my car. It's in the exact same spot it's been in for like 2 years. She knocked again the following Wednesday to follow up, and I said hi to her and I just closed the door. I genuinely just don't know what she expected to happen. Did she think I'd start parking differently forever just because she asked once? The confidence of it all is honestly really impressive, but still, I'm not obligated to move and I'm definitely not going to do so. Okay, honestly, I totally understand where the original poster is coming from because I used to live in a situation like this. And let me tell you something, dude, parking spaces are precious. That is like gold, so getting one in front of your own house is huge. So in my opinion, this lady is completely out of line if she's like, oh, you need to move your car, because it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Does she really think that spot's gonna stay open if you move your car? Like, no, someone's just gonna take it. These spots are gonna get scooped up so fast, it's not even funny. So yeah, you could park your car further down the street, but guess what? Either she's gonna park there or someone else is. And also, if her spot is not being blocked, then what is she talking about? She probably has plenty of room to back out, but she's too lazy to be careful about it. So yeah, your neighbor is stupid and completely entitled for expecting you to move your car, because I guarantee you someone else is going to take that the second it opens up, and her supposed problem's going to continue pretty much no matter what, even if you don't park there. Today, I discovered a lock folder on my husband's phone that literally had pictures of my younger sister sleeping, as well as a slew of other scantily clad women that he had taken pictures of. And now I honestly feel sick and very confused because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I'm a 26-year-old female and I recently got married to my husband. We've been married for 2 months and we dated for about 3 years. I don't usually go through his phone, but even before we got married, I noticed a few times that he had saved a lot of suggestive or sketchy photos of of other women. And this happened multiple times, and it only seemed to stop when I got pregnant. Well, on February 20th of this year, I lost our first pregnancy, and I've been struggling emotionally ever since then. But then, last night, I had this strong gut feeling like something was telling me to just check his phone. He fell asleep early, so I ended up just using it. While scrolling through TikTok, I noticed that he saved a video in his TikTok collections, and it was a series of bikini photos of a girl he knew back in high school. I then checked his Facebook, and I noticed he had a locked folder on his Samsung phone. I asked him for the password, and he immediately became defensive, raising his voice and trying to make it seem like I was the problem here. But eventually, I convinced him to just open it up. But inside, I found saved photos of 2 different girls from high school, but what really disturbed me was finding a photo of my younger sister fully clothed, but taken while she was asleep. And guess what? She's currently staying with us. So right now, I feel sick, confused, and honestly disgusted. I don't know what to do or even how to begin processing this. So seriously, how do I handle this situation? Because I don't know what to do. Okay, I think the original poster knows what to do, but they're probably too afraid to do it, because holy crap, this is a deal breaker for me. I don't care who you are, I don't care what's going on. This is inappropriate across the board, but especially the fact that he's taking pictures of your younger sister. Like, I don't know how young your sister is, so I'm gonna assume the best in this situation, but holy crap, this is weird. You don't take pictures of someone while they're sleeping and then hide it in a folder that's locked by a password, and then try to pretend like, oh yeah, why are you trying to go through my phone? I can't believe you would invade my privacy, or whatever other crap he might be trying to spew out to be like, don't go through my phone. Because this is really sketchy, and I know if I was in your situation, I would definitely break up with him and start that process sooner than later. Am I the jerk for refusing to do extra work for a client for free after this client became incredibly difficult the entire time I tried to work for them? Because right now I'm seriously pissed off and I just don't know what else to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I seriously need an outside perspective. I'm a freelance social media manager and I started working with a client who paid the first month in advance. The collaboration lasted a bit over a month, but during that time we didn't end up posting anything. The reason is that every piece of content I created went through multiple rounds of revisions, sometimes like 3 or 4 times per post, and the client just kept changing directions. We changed the content plan about 3 times, and even right before posting, she would ask to completely modify the post. There were also a lot of contradictions, like, for example, she gave me a template, then later told me not to use the same colors or fonts from that template. She asked for voiceover, then refused to use her own voice, asked for AI voice, then rejected it because it wasn't good enough. I asked for brand assets like photos or something like that, and she said she didn't have time to provide them, but when I used stock images, she said they were too basic, and when I used AI-generated visuals, she said it didn't match the brand. Basically, nothing was ever validated and expectations kept changing. Now that the month is over, she told me, we didn't post anything, so finalize the content and post for 1 week, then we'll evaluate how the audience reacts and decide if we continue working together. And this would mean an extra 1 to 2 weeks basically for free, even though the lack of posting wasn't just on me. So I'm now wondering if I would be the jerk for not wanting to work this extra week for free, all because it comes back to the fact that she's clearly the reason none of this got done. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, there's no way in the world I would ever put up with this. Like, there are so many red flags about this client right off the bat, it's just not even funny. For starters, she's quite literally contradicting pretty much everything she's doing. And that is so frustrating, dude. Like, seriously, just give me some direction here. Give me something to work with. I literally can't do anything if you're gonna sit there and be like, I'm sorry, you need to do it right, while also never giving you any clear directions, dude. Now, for me personally, I'm not a fan of AI anything. I think that's a terrible precedent to set. But in this case, I kind of understand why the original poster went that route, because it's like, dude, I literally have no idea what you want. I'm just working with whatever I have and you're giving me nothing. Like, I can only imagine being in the original poster shoes where I'm like, dude, I'm scratching my head. I got nothing to work with here. Like, she's trying to come back 3 or 4 times per post. And I don't know about anyone else, but that seems a bit obnoxious. Like, holy crap, maybe just let it ride first before you like micromanage everything. Like, I don't know. I would almost demand some kind of like further payment if she's gonna sit there and like, I don't know, modify everything that I'm doing, because she's being way too meticulous about it. Like, dude, just let it ride, let it happen. Post it and see what happens. Like, clearly the original poster knows what they're doing. They have some kind of knowledge about this, otherwise you wouldn't have been hired for it. But the lady in question, who's like the client, is almost coming off as like suspicious, where she's expecting you to do all this work, but like almost never trusting that it's gonna be done right. And that is super obnoxious, dude. I would not want to deal with that. It would almost make me want to like, I don't know, give her money back and be like, okay, go find someone else. I'm not doing this. Because, dude, it is not worth it. This is just way too much work for such little payout. So no, I would never work 2 extra weeks for free, all because a client decided to get in the way of me doing my job. I would probably just give her her money back and be like, I'm gonna go on to somebody else because I have no time for this. And honestly, I think the original poster should absolutely do the same. My friend is constantly testing our friendship in a way that is really turning me off, as it seems like she's always trying to set me up for failure by like throwing in these little tests in all of our interactions, putting me in a situation where I truly just don't feel like I'll ever make her happy, especially with an argument we recently had where she basically said that I don't appreciate her enough and that I'm not doing enough in our friendship, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can see exactly how toxic some people's friends really are. And my god, this first story I've got for you absolutely takes the cake. Like, good lord, the original poster in this goes through it. So subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications, man. You don't want to miss a video, do you? Okay, let's jump right into it. Okay, for starters, I have this close friend of mine who I will call Stella for the sake of the story, who has this really annoying habit of doing little things to test our friendship. She will say stuff like, oh, I just want to see if you'd notice I was upset. Or she'll say, I wanted to see if you would drop what you were doing to help me out. And this really pisses me off, and I've told her before that I would really love it if she would stop doing that and just talk to me openly if something was bothering her. Well, last weekend we went out to dinner with 2 friends, and at the end of it we asked for separate checks. When it came to me, I noticed that they had charged me one of Stella's drinks. She had already paid, so I decided not to say anything then, because I didn't really want to complicate everything for the staff, so I figured I would just bring it up later. After dinner, while we were all saying goodbye, I quickly mentioned to Stella that one of her drinks had been charged to my bill, and that I thought that she had overlooked it. Now, I said this really nicely and pretty offhandedly. However, after I told her that, Stella suddenly got really cold and just said, oh. Now, it's important to know that I'm a really awkward person, and I just don't know how to handle people when they're being rude or standoffish, so I kind of just let it slide. Later that night, she texted me saying that she felt that I had been acting selfishly and that she didn't feel appreciated in our friendship despite her doing so much for me. She said she had noticed the drink wasn't charged to her and waited to see whether I would offer to cover it since, you know, she had helped me move into my apartment 2 months ago. Now, I understand wanting to be appreciated, but this was honestly really annoying. I don't think it's healthy to help your friends and expect something in return. That feels very transactional. I told her that if she wanted me to buy her a drink as a thank you for helping me move, it would have been better to say so 2 months ago. Instead, this turned something small into some arbitrary test of friendship. She then replied that it shouldn't have to fall on her to keep reminding me to show basic appreciation. We decided to meet for brunch the next day to talk it out in person, and I got there first and I just ordered a coffee. However, before I could even really say anything, she immediately started telling me how she hoped I had thought more about my actions. And at that point, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was so frustrated that any attempt at having a productive conversation turned into me somehow being the villain. So I just stood up, I paid for my coffee, and I left. I then texted her afterwards saying that I was done participating in her little tests, and that I can't be friends with someone who isn't willing to communicate like an adult. I just don't know how I can make her understand that she needs to stop testing people quite literally, because this is seriously making my friendship with her fall apart, and I really just don't know what to do from here. Okay, dude, your friend sucks. This is a terrible person. I hate people who do this because it really does kind of put a wedge between you and them, where every single interaction is suddenly being measured and like constantly observed. You always think to yourself like, oh man, am I doing the right thing that's gonna make this idiot happy? You're always like walking on eggshells and everything means something when it's like, dude, it's not that deep. Like, holy crap, I'm just trying to like pay for my dinner. I don't want to be like tested as if this is like the end of the world. And maybe like I'm a heartless jerk and I'm kind of mean, but when someone tries this with me, I just refuse to play along. I refuse to give any kind of validation for that because it's immature and it's just a waste of my time. And I can guarantee you, if you do start playing that game with them, it never ends. The Stella in this story will never be satisfied with anything you're doing. You will always be just out of reach of her approval. And it will always be like, oh, well, I wish you did more. And it doesn't matter what you do, it will never be enough. Like, I guarantee it. So yeah, your friend sucks. And personally, if I was in your shoes, I would probably stop being good friends with her and just move on to other people. Because personally, I find this kind of friendship exhausting and I would hate to put up with this all the time. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Would I be the jerk if I refused to switch dorms with a girl who's autistic, as she said that she could really benefit from the dorm much more than I would? But right now, I'm honestly not sure if I should do this or not, and I seriously am not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so basically, I go to an almost Montessori boarding school where the students get to choose their own dorms and their own roommates. And I have what most people would agree to be the best dorm. This is because the way our dorm is set up, every dorm that is made for 2 people has a bathroom in it and is bigger than the singles. And the single dorms don't have bathrooms and have to share a communal bathroom with like 3 other single dorms. Well, apparently around 3 years before I got to my dorm, multiple people complained that my dorm was too small for 2 people. So the school just made it a single. It was too small because it's next to the laundry room, and I chose this room because I have a family friend who told me about it, and because of the way the boarding's set up, I'm going to the same room just a floor up every single year. So where the problem starts is that a girl transferred to our school this year and she's autistic. The school has rooms for people who have disabilities. However, I've never been in one of them. Before spring break, she knocked on my door and asked if we could talk. She basically asked if we could switch dorms because my dorm would be better adjusted for her because it's close to the laundry room, it has a window that faces the quad, etc. Now, I really feel bad because she said that she lives out of state and has to spend all weekends and smaller breaks on campus, whereas I live pretty close by and frequently go to my own house, basically whenever I want. And because she's also new and doesn't have many friends on campus, she's also probably going to spend a lot of time in the dorm. I talked to my school before break and they said I don't have to do it, but if I wanted to, I could be switched to an open single on campus. Now, I really love my dorm and I don't want to switch, but I also feel like I would be a jerk if I don't. So honestly, would I be at fault here if I say no? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, bro, you are definitely not the jerk. That is so stupid. You're not responsible for someone else adapting to a boarding school. Like, holy crap. If you really need someone else's dorm just to accommodate to the new environment that you're in, then maybe going to the school is not a good idea. Like, what is going on right now? Why should the original poster give up their dorm just because you're having a hard time? Because guess what? You could still get the dorm and still probably have a bad time. So for you to try and guilt trip the original poster and be like, I need your dorm, I'm not doing well. And it's like, I'm sorry, who are you again? Why am I being guilt tripped by someone I don't know? So if I was in your shoes, I would say no and be like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep my dorm. I really enjoy it and I don't want to give it up. And that really is the end of it in my opinion. You're not responsible for anyone else's accommodation at a school they willingly went to. Because if they're not adjusting well, then I promise you giving up your dorm is not gonna make anything better. My boyfriend has this weird habit of stressing me out right before my exams, resulting in me doing poorly and him refusing to accept any kind of blame. And at this point, I'm at my wit's end and I don't know what to do about this. Here's what's happening. Okay, to start things off, my boyfriend and I study together, and I've started noticing a pattern where he seems to sabotage me before any kind of test or exam. At first, I didn't pay much attention to it, but today we had a test and I got an 8 out of 25. The worst part is, I didn't even feel upset about the grade. I just felt emotionally drained, and that made me reflect on what's been happening in my life. Before an important exam, he texted me saying there was something bothering him and that we needed to have a serious conversation. Now, I literally had to ask him to give me time to just take the exam first, but then he did the same thing before another exam, and now again today right before the test. I don't know if I'm overreacting, but I've told him multiple times that I'm an emotional person and that this kind of thing really affects me. I tend to get stuck in my head and I just can't focus. But he says, oh, this is just how I am, and that he can't keep things to himself, and that I'm trying to blame him for doing poorly on exams. At this point, it really feels like a pattern and not just bad timing. So how should I address this pattern with him? And is it reasonable to expect him to wait until after my exams are over to try and bring up some serious issue? Because right now I'm really upset and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, it really does seem like he's trying to sabotage you, and that sucks. Like, dude, why are you picking right now of all times to bring up stressful stuff? He could see you studying. He's watching you be like, dude, I don't know French literature and I don't care, but I have to pass. And then the day of the exam, he's like, oh yeah, I need to talk to you about something serious. We need to talk right now. And it's like, bro, I'm knee deep in Victor Hugo right now. I'm trying to figure out what romanticism is, and you're like, oh yeah, we need to talk. Like, give me a break. So if I was in your shoes, and a lot of people in the comments section of this post made this suggestion as well, basically I would say to him, okay, 48 hours before an exam, nothing can come up. I don't care what it is. I don't care what's going on. You're gonna hold off until the exam's done and then we can have our chat. Otherwise, it's gonna screw up my performance. Oh, and by the way, anytime someone looks at you and says, I can't change, this is just the way that I am. Sorry that you did bad on your exam. Oops. And it's like, dude, you absolutely can help yourself. And no, this is not just who you are. Because if this is who you are, buddy, then guess what? You're seriously sitting there trying to sabotage your girlfriend getting good grades. And I don't know about you, but no one's gonna want to date hate that, bro. You're only doing yourself a disservice. So yeah, that's what I would do personally. Hopefully this works out for you because your boyfriend's being an idiot and you definitely don't deserve this. This next story is proof that just because you book a hotel, it doesn't mean that somehow it's still gonna get canceled. As that's exactly what happened to the original poster. They showed up to their hotel and guess what? Someone said they canceled it, leaving them with literally no other choice except for to fight back. Here's how it happened. Okay, so this happened during a trip I planned weeks in advance and honestly, I still feel like I'm going crazy. I booked a hotel online, I got a confirmation email, payment receipt, and everything looked normal. I even double checked the details a few days before the trip just to be sure. Well, the day arrived and I went straight to the front desk. I gave my name and I waited for them to pull up the reservation. Well, the receptionist paused, typed again, and then said, "Oh, I can't find any booking under your name." Now, I thought maybe it was under a different spelling or something like that. So I showed her the confirmation email. It had the booking reference, the dates, the room type, literally everything. And so she entered the reference number and still got nothing. Now, at that point, I started getting frustrated. I told her I had a confirmed booking and I already paid a portion of it. She then called a supervisor to check, and after a few minutes, they told me the reservation had been canceled earlier that day. But that didn't make sense because I didn't cancel anything. I then asked them who canceled it, and they said it was done through the system and they didn't have specific details at the front desk. Then I asked the most important question. If this was canceled earlier, why wasn't I notified? And of course, I got no clear answer. Now, to make it worse, they said the hotel was now fully booked. Literally no rooms available. So just to recap, I had a confirmed reservation. I showed up on time, and I was told it didn't exist anymore and there was nothing they could do about it. And that's exactly when I got angry. I showed them all the proof again, the confirmation, the timestamps, the payment, literally everything. I asked them how a confirmed booking could just disappear without any notice. They kept apologizing but didn't offer a real solution beyond suggesting nearby hotels. But I refused to leave it at that. I asked them to escalate it further and check their system logs. After more waiting, they came back and admitted the bookings was modified earlier this day due to a system adjustment. And apparently it may have been incorrectly canceled during that process. So clearly it wasn't me, it was their system. But by that time, the room was already given to someone else. I kept pushing until they finally arranged a room in a partner hotel nearby, and they thankfully covered the difference. But only after I argued for it. But from my side, I had proof of a confirmed booking, and I still got turned away like it didn't exist. So am I the jerk for arguing and refusing to leave until they fixed the situation after my booking was suddenly gone? Because right now, I'm not sure what to think of this. Oh my gosh, no, you're not the jerk, dude. I absolutely would have chained myself to the desk and been like, I'm not leaving. Dude, you showed up on time. You literally got there and said, here's my reservation. I've got a reference number. I've got an ID. I've got everything that you would need. So you telling me that my reservation is canceled doesn't make any sense, because chances are the original poster was on the airplane getting over to this hotel, or they were traveling. So of course they couldn't look at their email. So they had no way of canceling anything, even if they wanted to. So of course it wasn't them. It's obviously you guys, and you guys screwing up in some way. So yeah, bro, you're not the jerk here. You're not the jerk at all. I would have done the exact same thing, and I would have never left that desk until they found some kind of accommodation for me. Because personally, and I don't know about anyone listening, but this is my personal nightmare. Me getting to a hotel and them saying, oh, I'm sorry, we're booked up and your reservation was canceled. So I think being stubborn and saying, oh no, you're gonna fix this is the best way to go about doing this, because this is their fault and they definitely need to fix it. Am I the jerk for roasting a friend who always complains every time we go out and eat food? Because after I said something just as a joke towards him, he took huge offense to it. And honestly, right now, I'm not sure what to do and I don't know how to fix this. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a group of friends who enjoy going out occasionally to try new restaurants. Sometimes this is a place that's really good, sometimes it's mediocre, but none of us think that we're some Michelin reviewer. We just eat the food and come back if we like it. Now, we have a mutual friend who I will call Dylan, who we had invited 3 or 4 times, but no longer bring along unless the goal is specifically non-food related activities. So we're talking stuff like fishing or hiking or something like that. Without even having to say a word to each other, we just stopped inviting him and his girlfriend, as we know that he'd just mess up the vibe by complaining in our ear about the food. And my God, this guy will complain about almost anything he eats, and then just compare it to his home cuisine of Indian. For example, we went to a ramen place and he just complained and moaned about how weird the soup tastes. Maybe it's too sweet or too salty, as he would just say, oh, I want a more bolder flavor. He'd talk about his favorite local dishes and how much he thought that was better. And so you know what? We just stopped inviting him to eat out. And Anyways, while on a hike, Dylan wanted to invite us all over to an Indian restaurant that he recently found. And during the conversation, when he said he liked every item on the menu, as a bit of a roast, I threw out something like, "Nah, man, I'm pretty sure we can find something you can complain about." And when I said that, he took huge offense to that. His girlfriend also took offense to that, and she didn't say anything, but the both of their moods shifted for the rest of the night after that. And the rest of us still had a good time, so it's like, whatever. But honestly, am I the jerk here? I didn't think my roast was mean-spirited at all. I mean, most people can be picky about a few things, but there's a respectful and normal way to go about doing it. What should I do? Nah, you're not the jerk. Your friend's an idiot. Dylan sounds like super annoying. Seriously, if he's not self-aware enough to know that, oh yeah, you complain all the time about food, then congratulations, you're the problem. Like, what are we talking about? If every single time we go out to eat and you're the only one complaining, then yeah, people are not gonna want to like hang out and do stuff with you like that. And also, I've roasted my friends about stuff before. It's not that big of a deal. The fact that Dylan's hypersensitive about this probably means he's aware of this problem, and he clearly just doesn't like being confronted about this, which is just silly. So no, you're not the jerk. Your friend's being overly sensitive, and I seriously just don't think you did anything wrong. Today, I messed up by confronting my neighbor about his loud leaf blower every Saturday morning, and somehow, as a result, I accidentally became a neighborhood legend. And now, after the fact, once it's all said and done, I kind of feel freaked out over this and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this happened this morning and my hands are literally still shaking as I type this, so bear with me. For nearly 14 months, I've been silently suffering. Every single Saturday at 7:15 in the morning, my neighbor, who I will call Dave for the sake of the story, fires up his industrial grade leaf blower. We're not talking about a normal one. This thing sounds like a 747 is landing in his driveway. Now, I have a 4-month-old, I work nights at the hospital, I'm running on approximately 11 minutes of sleep. Now, I keep telling myself, oh, just be the bigger person. I kept telling myself, oh, community matters. I mean, I told myself a lot of things while lying awake at 7:15 in the morning, wanting to dissolve into the mattress. But this morning, something in me just snapped. I walked over in my bathrobe, and my wife was saying, honey, don't, from the doorway. But you know what? I don't. I went ahead and I did it. I walk up to Dave, and Dave is a large man. Dave also doesn't see me at first because he's wearing noise-canceling earmuffs while operating a machine designed to cancel noise. So I just stood there in my bathrobe waiting for a solid like 45 seconds while he blew 3 leaves from one side of his driveway over to the other. Eventually, he finally sees me. He turns off the blower, he takes off the earmuffs, he looks at me, and before I can say a single word, he goes, oh, hey, you must be the husband. Your wife brings the best cookies to the block association. Such a good woman. And at this point, I black out a little bit. When I came back, I was apparently saying something about Geneva Convention and acoustic warfare and gesturing towards his leaf blower like I was presenting evidence in a courtroom. I don't fully remember it. I remember the word habituation, and it's like, I used that word? What's going on? Now, by the end of it, 3 other neighbors had come outside and one started slow clapping. Yeah, we're talking about clapping slowly in like applause. And honestly, I wanted to die. Dave apologized and said he'd never realized anyone could hear it, and apparently his wife had been on him about it too, and he just shook my hand and said I had real guts to say something. I then went back inside and my wife was crying laughing. Apparently she'd been watching from the window, and at one point I pointed directly at the sun as part of my argument, and nobody knows why. Well, the leaf blower has gone off. It's been 4 hours, the baby's asleep, and I should feel good about this, but I simply cannot stop thinking about the part where I said habituation because this all just went way better than expected, and I'm still a little bit freaked out. Oh man, dude, good for you. This is like a fantastic example of even if you're terrified, do it anyways. Because sometimes it's just that easy, dude. Sometimes people just don't know that they're being loud, and it's like, yeah, someone needs to say something to them because they don't realize what's going on. So yeah, good for the original poster. You did it. You conquered your fear. You talked to Dave, and yeah, it was really scary, but you did it, and that's all that matters. Am I the jerk for not letting my family live in my empty house as I'm moving out and I'm going to be living overseas? Because right now my family is really just bugging me about letting my brothers move in. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I come from a family that always struggled to get by. My mother raised 4 sons as a single mother and would go to the ends of the earth for us. She has always rented, as has most of my immediate and extended family. But you know what? I broke this mold when I got my dream house built in 2016. It's quite a large home, as at the time, I was planning on eventually starting a family and having kids. Well, fast forward to today, and I ended up focusing more on my career, and I have been in no rush to start a family. So, besides romantic partners and the occasional temporary roommate, I've lived in my house alone. Also, I'm set to move overseas later this year, and it will be for the foreseeable future. I offered to let my mother live in my house while I'm away, and I even offered her many times prior to this, but she has again said no. She likes where she lives and has has no plans to move. For reference, she's in a housing commission or like public housing house, so the rent is very low and the lease is essentially indefinite. Well, both my older and next younger brother found out about my offer to my mother and started throwing out not so subtle hints about letting either of them move in. It all finally came to a head over Easter when they both asked me outright if either of them or their families can stay at my house. And you know what? I told them in no uncertain terms they aren't allowed in my home while I'm away. This eventually led to them both blowing up at me, calling me selfish, saying I never needed a house that big anyways, and now I won't even be living in it while they both have partners and kids, and their current house or apartment isn't big enough for their families, saying to me, oh, there's a housing crunch, we can't afford anything bigger. But you know what? I called them both out on this. They both earn decent money, but they just can't budget anything. In fact, they spend money like it's going to rot. They both go on regular and quite pricey holidays. They always have the latest gadgets and always spend way too much money. Well, I ended up leaving the Easter festivities early when they wouldn't drop the subject and started using my nieces and nephews as props just to guilt trip me into letting either of them move in. My family has now been blowing up my phone ever since then, and even my mother has tried to find a way to get me to let them move in. Now, I don't trust them in my home without me. But honestly, am I really just selfish for leaving a large home empty for so long when they themselves have growing families? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, if you're going to be moving overseas indefinitely, then seriously, why are you keeping this house? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying let your brothers move in or anything like that. Like, dude, if you don't trust them, then screw that. Don't give them anything. But you do know you're gonna need someone to rent that place while you're away, otherwise it's gonna fall apart. Like, you can't just leave that empty because that's how you get squatters, that's how you have, like, I don't know, the building falling apart. Things eventually do deteriorate and you need someone to take care of it. So no, you're not the jerk for not renting it out to family, but seriously, you either need to like rent it out or sell the property, because if you're moving overseas and you're not coming back, then in my opinion, I don't really see a reason to keep it around. Today, I messed up by trying to fix a small bug at work, which instead caused the entire office to come crumbling down to its knees, putting me in a situation where I was convinced I literally deleted the company, which is an experience I will not forget anytime soon. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where technology can betray you in ways that will really ruin your life. And the original poster in this first story quite literally almost destroys the entire company as he tries to, like, I don't know, cosplay as the IT guy of the office and essentially bring everything crashing down around him. It's a pretty hilarious chain of events, and I think you're gonna like this first one. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, so my boss asked if anybody could just check the server real quick, and for some dumb reason, my idiot hand basically volunteered before my brain caught up to what I was doing, which already tells you exactly how this was gonna go before it happened. Now, I am not IT. I need to say that first because people at work keep acting like I'm basically a technician just because I know how to reset the printer, and one time I fixed the conference room TV when it was on the wrong input. That is the level that we're dealing with here, people. Now, yesterday, the actual IT guy was homesick. The shared drive was moving like absolute death, and people were complaining every 5 seconds. Files were hanging, Excel was not opening. Somebody from accounting was already doing that thing where they sigh really loud so everybody knows they're suffering. And my boss was acting like, okay, can you just like look at it for a second before this becomes a whole thing? So yeah, I said I'll check it, and that was honestly such a huge mistake. I log onto the server thing, or one of the server things. Honestly, I don't even remember exactly which panel I was in, because after a point, it all just kind of turned into tabs and a lot of fear. I started Googling symptoms like some guy diagnosing himself on WebMD. I eventually find some forum post from like 2017, and on it, some guy saying, well, if network storage gets weird, sometimes you can clear the temporary cache or refresh the mount. I mean, that can help. And in my head, that sounded low stakes, like unplugging the router and plugging it back in. Very normal, harmless, office hero kind of stuff. So I ran a command I half understood and half emotionally believed in. And for maybe 10 seconds, nothing happened. And I actually had this stupid little moment of pride, like, wow, maybe I've got this. Maybe I should have worked in IT this whole time. Then I hear somebody across the room go, did my files just disappear? And then another person goes, wait, I can't open anything. Then my own window starts vomiting errors. Not cute little pop-ups, but full-on angry text blocks. I know this sounds dramatic, but it felt like the computer was personally offended that I touched it. I start clicking around, trying to reverse whatever I did. And of course, there's no giant button that says, sorry, my my bad, put the company back. I restarted one service because that sounded responsible. Then another because the first one clearly made it worse. Now the whole shared drive is just gone. Not deleted apparently, but to everybody in the office it looked deleted, which is honestly close enough when 15 people are standing up asking why every folder vanished. Someone actually said, "Did we get hacked?" And I just sat there going, no, probably not, in that voice that people use when it absolutely might be a yes. I was sweating through my shirt, pretending to be calm, doing that fake squint at the monitor like I was deeply troubleshooting, when really I was just clicking things and hoping the server would develop some semblance of sympathy. My boss then comes over asking for an update, and I say I think it's reconnecting, which is just completely not true. It was more disconnecting, like aggressively disconnecting. I could feel the whole room getting weird and quiet in waves and then loud again. One girl from Human Resources had a yogurt in her hand the entire time, and for some reason that detail is burned into my brain because she just kept standing there eating it while the office died. Anyways, this went on for 2 hours. 2 full hours of 15 people basically being unable to work because I wanted to be useful for once. Well, the IT guy finally remotes in from home and messages asking who touched the server, and I had that awful frozen moment where I considered lying for maybe half a second. Not seriously, just like a survival reflex. But obviously logs exist, and also I am not built for crime, so I told him yeah, that was me. There was then this pause, and then he just said to me, "Why?" He wasn't even angry, which somehow made it worse. He was just exhausted. Like I had become one more item on the list of reasons he needed a better job. It turns out the command didn't clear the cache the way my peanut brain thought it would. It basically told the system to forget where the storage volume was mounted. So I didn't erase the files, I just made the office unable to see them, which is a very fun distinction that nobody in the moment really appreciated. Well, this guy fixed it in like 5 minutes, maybe less. And my god, I wanted to actually crawl under the desk. Now after that, nobody yelled, nobody even made a joke right away, which was somehow more humiliating because the whole place had this awkward library energy, and I could tell everybody knew, but they were deciding how mean to be later on. My boss finally just said that next time wait for IT, and I mean, yeah, that's completely fair. Hard to argue with that when I basically office nuked the file system simply because some random forum guy said, "Oh yeah, it looks safe." So now I'm pretty sure I'm forever the moron who deleted the company, even though technically nothing was lost, and holy crap, technically is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Oh my gosh, dude, this is like my nightmare. I am not tech savvy at all, and I know for a fact if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be sweating bullets, dude. I would be so anxious. Like, bro, I already sweat like crazy when I work out and when I'm under like stressful situations, and this would hit probably both of those nerves and be like, okay, now buckets of sweat everywhere. And people would see pretty quickly like, oh yeah, he has no idea what he's doing. And it's good because if I'm sweating, then people can't see the tears. So yeah, dude, you got away with a crime. I know jobs where if you mess with the IT infrastructure in any way, they literally would just fire you on the spot and replace you that same day. So the fact that you still have a job, I think is probably the only silver lining here, because otherwise this is incredibly humiliating. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I overreacting by asking my neighbor to change her cat's name after she literally named it after my dead daughter who passed away less than a year ago? Because right now things are really hard and we're all grieving the loss of this kid. And this situation is not making anything better and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, for a bit of context, my 14-year-old daughter, who I will call Zoe, passed away in December of 2025. It was very sudden and very traumatic for our entire family. She wasn't sick. Like, I went to get groceries and I just came home and she was gone. Now, onto the issue at hand. My youngest daughter, who I will call Lucy, is 9 years old. She had friends in the neighborhood that she is close to and will play with often. And one of these girls has been talking about getting a kitten for months now. Well, yesterday she finally got one. Her and her mom came to our door and introduced us to her new kitten. And it was really adorable, and Lucy loved it too. She asked what her friend had called the cat, and word for word, her friend looked at her and said, "Zoe, like, you know, your dead sister." Well, it was immediate silence until Lucy ran away in tears. I asked them to leave and went to check on Lucy, and she was beside herself. After we had a long talk, I politely reached out to my neighbor and plainly told her we weren't ready to hear Zoe's name around the neighborhood yet. It was too soon and it was hurting my daughter. Well, the mom replied and said that her daughter had fallen in love with the name and she wouldn't be asking her to change it. She also said that I was out of place asking her to do this. She then apologized for hurting Lucy's feelings, but assured me that the girls would make up and it would be all forgotten pretty soon. But it's like, what? I honestly can't believe believe this. How could someone be so ignorant? Our daughter died, and now I'm devastated. I don't know how to break this news to Lucy at all. So seriously, was I overreacting? Or am I totally justified? It's nice to have an outsider's perspective because sometimes I do overreact. I'm a grieving mom and I just can't see through it. What should I do? Okay, holy crap, these people are monsters. You're really trying to tell me that, oh yeah, let's name the cat after the dead girl next door. What are we doing right now? You have to be morally bankrupt to be okay with that. Seriously, the mom in this story who's like the neighbor, who really is trying to excuse this behavior and be like, oh sorry, we already settled on Zoe. Yes, your daughter died by the same name. No, we don't care. Like, the fact that she's trying to make that argument is crazy. And the fact that the kid said it so flippantly, like, oh yeah, we're gonna name our cat Zoe after your dead sister. That to me proves that this was a conversation already, and the mom's clearly okay with that. She's clearly okay openly like mocking the fact that, yeah, we're using your dead daughter's name as our cat and there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, by the way, our daughters will still be friends. Thanks. Like, what are we doing right now, bro? I would never let my kid over there ever again. I would ban that little brat from ever coming to my place ever again. Like, bro, Zoe died less than a year ago, and they really want to have this negative association with this cat and your dead daughter? Like, holy crap, dude. These people really suck. So no, you're not overreacting. I would tell them to get lost and I would never want them around ever again, because this level of insensitivity is shocking and just completely out of line. Am I the jerk for refusing to finish my coworker's work once again after she missed a deadline and expected me to somehow cover her? Because after reflecting on it, I kind of think I was a jerk about it, and I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I work in a small office where most of us share our different tasks pretty closely, and one of my coworkers tends to leave things unfinished and just assumes someone else will sort it out. And most of the time that ends up being me, mostly because I like things done properly and I do not enjoy loose ends sitting around. Well, last week we had a report due that required input from both of us, and she said that she would handle her portion by Thursday. Well, Thursday passed and nothing was ready. On Friday morning, she casually mentioned that she had been busy and asked if I could just fill in the gaps since I'm better with the details. Now that irritated me more than I expected. It was not just about the report. It honestly felt like a pattern where my reliability was being quietly taken advantage of. So I told her I'm not going to complete her part of this and that she needed to finish what she agreed to. I tried to keep my tone even, but I did not soften it much either. Well, when I said this, she seemed really surprised and a bit embarrassed. And later that day, she stayed late to finish it herself. Well, ever since then, things have been slightly tense. I understand that people go through things, but I also feel like I set a reasonable boundary. But still, I keep wondering if maybe I came across as unnecessarily cold when a softer approach might have worked just as well. So all in all, am I really the jerk for refusing to step in and for how I said it to them? Because right now, I don't know if I made a mistake. No, you're not the jerk. You're literally just being professional here. Because from the sounds of it, it really does seem like your coworker's just straight up taking advantage of you. They're saying to you, hey, sorry, but I'm really busy. Can you fill in the gaps? When guess what? They absolutely could do that themselves. They're not incompetent. They know how to do this crap. They just don't want to do it because they're bored. They know you could do it better, so it's like, oh, you just do it. But at the end of the day, they just don't want to. Even though they definitely could. Like, why else are they staying late getting it done? So no, you're not the jerk. I think setting these kind of boundaries and being like, dude, I'm not going to do your work for you. You've got to step up and do it. Like, that's completely reasonable, and I think in this case, absolutely necessary. My landlord came into my apartment without my permission while I was taking a shower, quite literally putting me in one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Because after he did that, I decided right there on the spot that I'm not renewing my lease with this guy. And now I'm not sure if I'm the jerk for doing this, and I just don't know if I made a mistake. Here's how it all happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm still shaking a little bit while I'm writing this out because this is crazy. For starters, I've rented from this guy for 2 years. He's this small private landlord who's an older gentleman, and generally we've been fine until very recently. The first time he showed up, as said in the title, unannounced, he said he wanted to check the boiler. I then thought to myself, okay, that's really annoying, but fine, whatever. The second time, he said a neighbor complained about a water stain on the ceiling below me, and at the time I wasn't home, so I only found out he was there because he left a note on my kitchen counter, which was in and of itself its own kind of unsettling. But today was when it really went off. I was in the shower at around 11 o'clock in the morning, and for reference, I work from home on Wednesdays, and it's here that I heard the front door open. And when I heard this, I froze. I grabbed a towel and I came out, and he was literally just standing there in my kitchen looking at the window frame, saying that he thought there might be a draft issue. Now, here's the thing. He didn't call me, he didn't text me, he literally gave me no notice. Just a 67-year-old man in my kitchen on a Wednesday morning, all because he thought there might be a draft of some kind. I was so startled, I didn't even react properly in the moment. I just stood there in a towel while he explained the window situation, like this was completely normal. After he left, I sat on the couch for a long time. Then I emailed him and told him that I would not be renewing my lease in March, and that going forward, he's required to give me at least 24 hours written notice before entering my apartment, as this is my legal right. He then replied saying he was sorry if he startled me, but that as the owner, he has the right to maintain his property, and he hoped that I would reconsider leaving over a simple misunderstanding. Now, my friend thinks I overreacted and that older landlords just operate differently, but my sister thinks I should have called the police in that moment. But I don't think I overreacted. I think a person walking into my home while I'm in the shower is not a misunderstanding. It's a violation, and I'm not going to stand for it. So, am I the jerk for deciding that was the last time? Because right now I don't know what to do. Bro, if you don't set up some cameras in your house, you're crazy. Seriously, this guy's walking in while you're taking a shower. He's coming into your house when you're not there and leaving a note. Like, dude, how many times has he been in there and you just don't know about it? Like, that's crazy talk, dude. I'm not gonna be okay with that. And this guy's trying to be like, oh yeah, I have a right to maintain my property. But it's like, yeah, your tenants also have a right to know when you're gonna be there, dude. You can't just be there without announcing it first. That's not okay. That's very invasive and very violating. And also, this is an adult. This is a 67-year-old man. He knows he's not supposed to be in there without your permission, and yet he's clearly going in there anyways without talking to you first, hoping that you probably won't say anything about it. But no, there's rules for a reason, and in this case, it sounds like you have a legal right to that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. I would never want to stay there either, because what he's doing is completely inappropriate, and you have a right to privacy. My girlfriend slept with another guy after we agreed to go on a short break, just so my girlfriend could explore herself and find out who she really is. But now that we're back together, I feel completely heartbroken. I didn't expect this to affect me as much as it did, and honestly, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so for a bit of context, my girlfriend and I have been dating for almost 3 years, and we've had very little issues over those 3 years, and it's been great. Lately though, she's been getting this fear of missing out about missing her opportunity to be young and just experiencing her 20s. She says she wants me forever, but doesn't know what she wants right now. She feels like she needs to be alone for a while just to experience life. Not necessarily be with other people or anything like that, but just figure herself out because she's never really been in any long-term relationships. Now, I really just don't share that same type of feeling because a long-term relationship is what I always pictured for myself. But she says she misses the excitement in our relationship, and because of that, she wants to experience flirting with other people and just getting attention from other people other than me. I'm a very open-minded person and we both love each other very much, so we talked about it, and I decided I'm open to her trying this if maybe it's just an itch that she's needing to scratch to figure out what she wants in her life. I trust that she would be open and honest with me about anything she's feeling, and I think I convinced myself that I wasn't as worried as I maybe should have been. So long story short, because I love her and we both want each other long term, I convinced myself I'm okay with her trying this to confirm that she only wants me. And it's right about here that everything started to fall apart. Fast forward to today and I'm out of town, so I suggested that maybe we take a sort of break while I'm out of town so we don't actually force a break. So this would mean that she could do whatever she wants because I want her to figure out what will make her happy. I love her very much and I want her, so I try to help her be happy this way, and I don't feel too strongly that I would lose feelings if she slept with someone else. I had considered this possibility when talking about a break, and all I asked is that it wasn't someone she knew already, like friends or a coworker or something like that. Anyways, last night she went out to the club with some friends and ended up going back to this guy's place, and they made out and did the dirty, if you know what I mean. She then says to me that it was really bad and that she was thinking of me the whole time, and now can't possibly imagine that she wants anyone but me. Now, I wasn't really mad about it, but just more so shocked that it happened, and I'm really super anxious now. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, and she says it's okay if I want to break up with her, and that she now feels super guilty about sleeping with that guy. So I'm kind of stuck on how to feel because I did agree that she could do whatever she wanted, and I mentally prepared for the possibility, but now that it actually happened, I really don't know how to feel. I'm glad that it wasn't someone that we knew, and I'm glad that she was honest about what had happened. It also achieved what we were hoping to find out, which was letting her experiment to confirm whether or not she wanted to continue our relationship, which thankfully she does. But I really just don't know how to feel. I've definitely calmed down since she told me, but I don't know what to do about our future. I really do love her, and I want her and I to be happy together, but after all of this, I doubt whether or not I should continue our relationship. I really don't want to break up, but at the same time, maybe I feel like we should split. I mean, I really don't know. So for my question to the people, what should I do here? I'm heavily leaning towards staying because of the openness and honesty of the whole situation, especially considering this is something that I agreed to. What should I do? Okay, I've said it once on this channel, I'll say it 1,000 more times. I don't think open relationships are a good idea because it absolutely will end in heartache. This is a prime example of what happens. Here you have a guy who's like, oh man, my girlfriend wants to experience her 20s still. She wants to get out there and be desired by other men. I'm just gonna let her do it. I'm open to this. If she sleeps around, it's gonna be fine. I'm not gonna worry about it. Oh yeah? And then it happens, and then guess what? This guy's like, oh wait, this feels wrong. I don't like this at all. I don't know if I want to be with you anymore. And it's like, yeah, you went through all the process of being like, I'm ready for this. I've mentally prepared for it. So yeah, honey, go out there and sleep with another guy. And then you have the audacity to sit there and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I feel this way. It's crazy that I'm upset about this. I mean, I prepared properly for it. Like, dude, you're an idiot. What are you doing right now? If I'm being 100% honest with the original poster, you could do so much better than this girlfriend. Like the second she said, I just want to experiment and go with other guys and get attention from other people, that would have been my moment to dip and be like, okay, we're breaking up. Go do that. Like, dude, what are we doing? If you really didn't see this as a red flag, then I don't know what to tell you, because holy crap, this girl's gonna rip your heart out and throw it to the curb. I mean, my God, dude, you agreed to it too. That's crazy to me. So yeah, this is a mess. I think you have your work cut out for you if you do want to stay with her, but I can confidently say that if my girlfriend did that and was like, I just want to see other people right now, can we go on a break so I can sleep around? I would begin the process of breaking up with her and I would not look back, because that is not the kind of person I want to spend my life with, and clearly she feels the same way. Am I the jerk for refusing to laugh at a customer's creepy joke he made towards me, as I honestly didn't find it funny, and if anything, it was really just disturbing, because eventually my manager got involved and I actually got in trouble with him for not just going along with it. And now I'm kind of wondering if I made the wrong choice and I just don't know what to do. Here's basically what happened. Okay, so I've been working in retail for like 3 years and I have mastered the customer service mask. You know the one, the fake smile, the polite nod, and the forced laugh at every dad joke about an item not scanned being free. But today I just couldn't do it anymore. I was at the register during a massive rush. The line was out the door. I was sweating and I had not taken a break in like 5 hours. This guy, probably in his late 40s, comes up and he's buying a bunch of stuff and he's being slow on purpose, just staring at me. Well, as I'm bagging his items, he makes this really gross, edgy joke about why he's buying a specific tool. It was not funny. It was borderline harassing, and honestly, it made my skin crawl. Now, I didn't say anything. I didn't glare. I just stayed blank. I finished scanning his stuff and told him the total in a completely flat, professional tone. But guess what? He didn't pay. He just stood there and said, "You're supposed to laugh, sweetheart. I'm the customer." But I then told him that I'm just trying to get through the line quickly since people were waiting. And when I said this, he literally got offended. He started raising his voice, saying I was miserable and disrespectful, and that apparently part of my job is to make sure the customer has a good experience, which apparently includes stroking his ego. And at this point, I finally snapped. I said to him, "Sir, my job is to process your transaction and not be your audience. Do you want the receipt or not?" He ended up calling my manager, and my manager is usually okay, but he pulled me aside later and said I should have just giggled and let it go to avoid the drama. And now I'm sitting here wondering if I'm actually the jerk for making a scene by not reacting. What should I do? Dude, I'm surprised you finished out that transaction after you made some creepy joke. Because guess what? You're right. You're not obligated to laugh at these weird, disgusting jokes he makes. Like, I probably would have canceled his stuff and been like, okay, you gotta go to another register or you gotta go somewhere else because I am not helping you. Because you don't have to put up with that. You don't have to be talked to like that. You don't need this adult 40-year-old man making creepy comments towards you. And in my opinion, the fact that your manager's like, oh, come on, just giggle. You should have just laughed a little bit to avoid the manager. That, in my opinion, is the mark of a terrible manager. He would leave you hanging if he had the chance just to avoid getting in trouble instead of, standing up for his coworkers. Like, oh my God. Because holy crap, if one of my female cashiers came up to me and said, oh, this guy's making creepy jokes towards me, I would have happily told this guy to get lost and that he's not purchasing anything today and canceled his transaction and taken the blunt end of anything he has to say. Because dude, if he's making like borderline harassing statements, then he's gotta go. I'm sorry, but you gotta shop somewhere else, buddy. So the fact that he's like, just go along with it next time. I mean, come on, don't be so mean. Like, no, dude, you're not under any obligation to laugh at these creepy comments. And in my opinion, I think you handled this well by shutting this guy down and trying to stay professional. My girlfriend hid an air tag in my car just to track where I was going. And now, even though she's apologized and removed it from my car, I still feel this tension between the two of us, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, we've been together for like 3 years and we live together with marriage on the cards, and we've had zero trust issues on my side. She can literally go anywhere and is completely fine with me. Well, long story short, I went on a 2-day work trip and I parked my car at home. But once I got back, I kept hearing beeping inside the car every time I started driving. And I honestly thought nothing of it until I finally put the pieces together. Later that day, my iPhone told me that an AirTag was traveling with me and showed me the map locations, which is also exactly the same as where I'd just been driving. Now, my car is also a company car, so I started to think that it was maybe something to do with work, but I immediately realized that I would have been told this as I'm in a manager's position. So I literally stripped the car completely to try and find it, but of course I had no luck. The same day, I went home and I confronted my girlfriend, and I could tell straight away that she absolutely did it. I asked her to remove it, and she became very defensive and told me no, saying that I either need to take it out myself or find it. And my god, I was so upset that I left it in there and I just carried on with my day. The following day, I asked her to remove it again and I followed her to the car. And this is where I discovered it was taped underneath the passenger seat. I then asked her for her reasons for doing it, and I was told that she wants to know exactly where I am. For context, we had an argument a couple of weeks ago and she ignored me for 2 days. And I mean completely ignored me, as if I didn't even exist. The next day, I felt like I didn't want to go home. So I went to the driving range, I went to the sauna, and I got home at around like 10:30 at night. Well, she then immediately confronted me and asked where I was and what I was doing. But I told her the truth and I asked her why she didn't message me. And this is where she said, well, I didn't want to ask. You need to tell me everywhere that you're going from here on out. But it's like before, if she would ask me where I am, I would just tell her. Like, I've got nothing to hide. I'm boring, I work too much, and I play golf. So yeah, how would you feel about this? I eventually received an apology. The tracker has been removed, but she has been very distant ever since then. No hugs, no kisses. She barely even talks to me. What should I do? Okay, there is like an entirely different level of immaturity that's going on here that I would never be able to ignore. Like seriously, if you really want to know where I'm at, I guess the two of you could like agree to some application that does this, but covertly going in his work truck and being like, oh, I'm gonna hide an AirTag right here, and not realizing that, yeah, the phone's gonna alert him to the fact there's an AirTag in there is honestly stupid and just really paranoid for the wrong reasons. And I just can't stand stuff like that, dude. That's so inappropriate. It's also the lack of accountability here. It's like, yeah, you gave an apology out, but you're still acting really standoffish, as if I did something wrong. Like, the original poster didn't do anything. You're the one that hid an AirTag in their car because he didn't trust him, and that's like super toxic in my opinion. So yeah, this feels like a huge breach of trust, and it's honestly something I would not overlook. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for telling a coworker to not go through my notebook after she literally read it and repeated what I wrote when we were at work? Because it really felt invasive and honestly, I just did not like it. And at this point, I don't know if I made a mistake. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work in a small office where most of us just share our supplies. Nothing is officially assigned, but people tend to respect what belongs to who. Now, I keep a very specific notebook on my desk where I write down ongoing tasks and ideas. It's not anything confidential. It's just personal organization that helps me stay on track. Well, last week I came back from lunch and I noticed my notebook had been moved. At first I thought I had just like forgotten where I left it, but when I opened it, I saw a few pages flipped open, as well as a sticky note inside that I definitely did not put there. Later that afternoon, a coworker casually mentioned something I had written in the notebook as if it were somehow common knowledge. And that's when it finally clicked that she had gone through my stuff. Now, I gotta be honest, I felt really uneasy about it. Even if the content was not private in a strict sense, it still felt very intrusive. The next day I spoke to her and I said, hey, I would prefer if you didn't look through my things without asking first. And when I said this, she seemed really surprised and said, oh, I thought it was fine since we all share materials. And she said that she was just trying to find information related to a project. She also said I was overreacting because it was just a notebook and not anything too sensitive. So seriously, I'm not really sure if I handled this the right way. I didn't want to let it slide because it really did bother me, but I also did not intend to create friction. So seriously, am I the jerk for calling her out on this? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think the original poster is the jerk here. I totally understand the notion of like, oh, we share our supplies, it's not a big deal, right? But it's like, sure, okay, that's totally fair, but I'm not about to go through my coworker's desk and be like, oh, let me find that one thing for the project I'm working on. Like, no, I'm gonna ask the person about it and be like, hey, do you have that thing for the project? It's like, yeah, we share our supplies, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna rifle through someone else's stuff and be like, oh, let me find this real quick. Like, that just seems really intrusive, and I totally understand where the original poster is coming from. So on that end, I think you had every right to establish some kind of boundary with this coworker because yeah, they should not have been going through your stuff, and I think that was very unprofessional for them to do. My boyfriend is literally weaponizing his incompetence in a way that is really frustrating because right now I feel like I'm losing it and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's currently going on. So my boyfriend and I have been living together for about a year now, and for reference, he moved into my apartment. And it has been amazing, don't get me wrong. But recently, I've begun to notice more and more instances of just flat out incompetence from him that are either new or no longer explainable by him, where he can say, oh, I'm just new to the apartment. Some examples being me asking him to put away our mop and him saying, oh, I don't know where it goes. Or if I'm cleaning and I ask him if he could just finish by mopping the floors. And after I asked him later that day if he did it, he said he looked everywhere and couldn't find the mop. And this was literally shortly after the last incident where he ended up putting the mop away himself. More examples are me asking if he could vacuum our bedroom and him playfully saying, I don't know her, yet still not doing it. He does the playful saying of, oh, I don't know him, her, or what thing, and then proceeding to not do it more and more often. I'm honestly just looking for a way to confront this behavior as soon as possible, because it really feels like when I get frustrated with him when he does this stuff, he acts the part harder and doubles down that he genuinely doesn't know what he's doing. When I refuse to help him though, he simply does it wrong or just doesn't do anything at all. I can't help walking him through basic tasks, having to keep tabs on everything in the apartment that needs to be done myself, and keep doing everything for 2 people by myself. What should I do? Dude, this guy needs to have a come to Jesus moment. There's no excuse for this. If he's moving into your apartment and still acting like, I don't know where the mop goes, I don't know how to do it, I don't know how to do any of this, it's like, dude, listen to me right now. You can either mop the floor or you can live outside, because I'm gonna go crazy. This guy doesn't want to have a girlfriend where you like build a relationship and have a future together. He clearly still wants his mom to take care of him. It's like, dude, okay, it is not that hard to mop the floor. And it doesn't matter if you're doing it wrong or if you're like, oh, I don't know how to do it. Just mop the floor. Just get it done. It doesn't matter if you do it weird. Just do it. The same goes for him vacuuming the floor. Like, dude, you can't get it wrong. I promise. So yeah, this sounds incredibly annoying, and I would personally be very blunt with someone if they were not pulling their weight, which from the sounds of it, that perfectly describes your boyfriend. My friend recently made a mockery of my cleft lip, and so as a result, I decided to cancel my flight ticket that we had booked for a trip we were going to take together. And now she's freaking out, saying that I'm overreacting and taking things way too far. And at this point, I'm not sure if she's right, and I don't really know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so one of my close friends shared a reel with me from Instagram, and the reel was basically showing a surgical process of cleft lip. And she then said, ha ha, look, I found your treatment. Now, I ignored the reel, and later in the evening, she mentioned it again, and I just simply told her it's not funny. She then said to me, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you're gonna take it so seriously. Now, for reference, she has previously made fun of my uneven nose and my teeth, for which I made a mistake of brushing it off just by laughing. But her saying that she found my treatment when I never asked for one was really hurtful. I told her this is a sensitive topic for me, and I don't want to go through another surgery in my life. I shared that I don't wish to surround myself with such people who tell their friends that their face needs fixing. She said that it's fine if I don't want to talk to her, and she didn't think that I would take it this seriously. Well, after giving it some thoughts, I decided to cancel my flight ticket for a trip we were planning, and we had only booked the ticket and nothing else. And when I did this, her tone changed completely, and she said that I have screwed her over. She said that I've costed her money, and instead of canceling my ticket, I should have just said something back to her. So honestly, should I have canceled my ticket? Like, did I make the right choice here, or am I kind of overreacting? Someone please help me out, because I'm not sure where to go with this. Okay, in my opinion, if you're making fun of someone's like physical appearance like that and saying, oh yeah, I found your treatment, then dude, you're a terrible person. Like, you really just don't do that to people. That's really unfair and very unkind. And to me at least, like, this is a good marker of like whether or not someone's a good friend. Because if they're constantly taking shots of the way you look and being like, oh wow, you're so ugly, calling out how your teeth are crooked, your nose is crooked, and about your cleft lip, which I'm sure you know all about, like that's the mark of a terrible person and an even worse friend. So I know for a fact, if I was in your shoes and I started to experience this, I would probably cancel my flight as well. I wouldn't deal with that for a second. Because why should you go on vacation with someone like this? Seriously, I wouldn't want to spend time around that. So in my opinion, I think you did the right thing. Today, I need to confess that I cheated on my wife less than a year into our marriage, and as a result, I destroyed everything in my life and I'm still trying to pick up the pieces. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my wife and I had been together for almost 10 years before we married. Looking back now, there were cracks long before the wedding, and it's mostly just all around money. She owed me thousands of dollars. She had credit card debt, there were buy now, pay later balances, and there would regularly be money taken out from our joint accounts without telling me. It happened enough times that it became normal normal even though it constantly stressed me out. But I refused to buy a house until she was debt-free, and we set April as the date to clear everything. But despite that, she still spent heavily. She went on 3 trips abroad, in New York, Spain, and Boston, and during the Boston trip, I noticed large amounts missing from our joint account again. In December, we had an argument after she sold some games at a retail store that she had bought on finance because she was short on money. That moment stuck with me because it felt like proof that nothing was changing financially. There were other issues too. Long periods without intimacy, me doing most of the cooking and housework, and her struggling with anxiety and withdrawing into gaming and TV. I pushed for therapy and help, but it usually just caused arguments. I avoided conflict as much as possible. So instead of dealing with problems directly, I stayed quiet and just carried on. Around October, I realized I wasn't happy anymore. At the same time, something in me started changing. Outside of the relationship, I began feeling more confident. I started talking to people more easily and felt less reserved than I used to be. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was growing as a person, even though my marriage felt really stuck. Around then, I became friends with a colleague at work. We bonded over music, films, and TV shows. I found her attractive, but at first I kept things friendly and I spoke openly about my wife. And when I mentioned this colleague to my wife, she immediately didn't trust her, which made things really tense. Over time, I started talking to this colleague more and more. I stayed late after work just to talk to her. I found myself happier at work than at home, and I began questioning what I wanted from my life. But instead of having difficult conversations with my wife, I just avoided them. Eventually, the friendship crossed into an emotional affair, and then it became physical, and I basically cheated. By the time of my wife's birthday in December, she had already noticed my lack of interest. Now, we had not been physically intimate for about a month, and I still bought gifts and decorated the house, and I tried to act normal, but that night she confronted me. I admitted that I'd been talking to someone at work, and eventually confessed to meeting her privately. I was kicked out of the flat that night, and the next day I asked for a divorce, and it's here that she emptied the joint account we had within minutes. Looking back even further, I think the wedding itself should have been a warning sign, because it really felt like it was more for her and her family than for us. Some remarks were even made about my family and how they behaved, even though many of them left early due to health reasons. I even remember feeling uncomfortable that day, but just pushing the feeling aside. But now I'm living back with my parents, I'm rebuilding relationships with family members that I haven't spoken to in years, and yeah, I lost my wife, most of my friends, some family connections, and the home that we built together. Eventually, the colleague and I stepped back to just being friends, and there is still some mutual attraction, but things are slower now. I'm in therapy every week trying to understand how I let things get this far, how I avoided conflict, ignored problems, and ended up cheating instead of leaving when I should have. I know I'm the bad guy in this story. I don't blame anyone else for what I did. I carry guilt, shame, and loneliness every day because of it. The only small positive is that I've started doing things I never did before. I'm running, I'm golfing, I'm drawing and reading. I'm trying to rebuild myself from the ground up while living with the consequences of my own choices. Oh my god, dude, this is some heavy stuff. Holy crap. This is some pretty obvious proof that, yeah, you need to talk to your partner, dude. And it just sucks because, like, it doesn't excuse the way his wife was acting and pretty much all the terrible things she was doing. I mean, she was in debt, she really wasn't doing her part, and it seems like there was like a distance between the two of them. But holy crap, is it nothing compared to cheating? Like, are you kidding me? At that point, you might as well just get a divorce instead of being like, I'm gonna go behind your back and sleep with my colleague. Like, what a stupid decision. That is so dumb. So yeah, moral of the story is talk to your wife, don't cheat on her, because that's not gonna solve anything. And the way the original poster did this is seriously stupid. I don't care that he learned a lot about himself. He destroyed his life in the process, and I'm sure if he could take it all back, he probably would. Today, I had one of the weirdest customers while I was driving Uber who demanded that I, a massage therapist, give her a 50% discount, all because she gave me a $5 tip for her Uber ride. Which, once I said no to her, she gave me a 1-star review, which really seems unnecessary and kind of pisses me off. Here's what happened. Okay, so today was a bit of a curveball, but just stay with me. Just to provide some backstory, I am primarily a massage therapist, but I am new to Corpus Christi, and because of that, I'm trying to build my client list, but also meet new people and explore the city along the way. So I figured driving for Uber would be a good way to make some side cash, but also help me in those regards as well. So with that being said, I have that I'm a massage therapist in my Uber bio, as well as inside the car, just in case my riders are ever curious, which surprisingly, lots of them are, or at least ask about it in some regard. Now, let's get back to this wild story, because this morning I was driving and my second pickup of the day was this woman from the airport. And I've got to say, she was really kind and really bubbly. She was visiting for the week for work, and I was dropping dropping her off at her hotel. The ride was about 20 minutes long, so during the ride we chatted about Corpus Christi and also about me being a massage therapist. It was a very normal flowing conversation, and honestly, I thought it was going smooth. The ride ended, she grabbed my info, and we said bye, and I went on to another rider. Well, maybe a few hours went by, and I get a text message from her, and again, this is nothing odd. She then proceeds to ask about the massages more in depth and ask about pricing, and when I throw her my menu, her next text is really wild. She straight up said, word for word, "So, since I left you like a $5 tip this morning, is there any way you can hook me up with a 50% off massage?" And no joke, I laughed out loud hard, but I kept it professional and I just replied by saying, "Well, I'm sorry. I appreciate the tip and that's very kind of you, but I simply can't do 50% off of a 1-hour full body massage. The best I can do is maybe add on a hot stone package as a thank you for the tip, but that's about it." Now, when I said this, she responded back by saying, "Well, that is super unprofessional of you. I was kind enough to give you a $5 tip for this morning's drive, and I'm giving you business. You should be thankful. If you don't do right by me, I'll make sure you get a proper 1-star review if this is how you are going to treat people." So, as you can imagine, she straight up gave me a 1-star review shortly after that, and I am utterly in disbelief. I don't understand the audacity of some people because I literally did nothing wrong. Dude, what is going on? This is so weird. Imagine having the audacity and the just sheer guts to be like, "Hey, I left you a $5 tip. Give me a half-off massage, otherwise I'm gonna give you a bad review." Like, my God, what a weird request, dude. Because while I don't know anything about massage therapy, like I've never gotten a massage myself, I can almost guarantee that $5 is not gonna make a dent in how much it's gonna cost to actually get that 1-hour massage. So for her to be like, "Oh yeah, this should like earn me a 50% off massage, you're gonna have to do that." Like, that is super entitled and very toxic, and the original poster didn't deserve that at all. My dad tried to force us to meet his new girlfriend right after my sister gave birth. And it's gotten to a point where he's tried this multiple times with different partners, and it's really getting frustrating. And we're now trying to figure out how to approach him about this because he is not the easiest person to talk to. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, for starters, my dad has a long-distance girlfriend. We've never met her and we don't know much about her, yet he still expected her to come to the hospital right after my sister gave birth to her 3rd child. My sister said she only wanted close family there and didn't feel it was the right time to meet his girlfriend for the first time, but he simply couldn't understand that. Before the birth, my sister had very clearly, and more than once mind you, told him that she felt uncomfortable with his girlfriend coming along. It's a very vulnerable situation for her, and his girlfriend is still a stranger to us. When my sister had announced that she had given birth, his first response wasn't to ask how she was doing or how the birth went, but instead it was him asking when him and his girlfriend could come visit, despite her having already said no. I ended up messaging him and clearly restating her boundary, and I told him that she had already said no, and that he needed to respect that this moment is about her, the baby, and their immediate family. He replied briefly by saying, "Oh, I'll just pass on that," and I haven't heard from him since. This also isn't entirely new behavior, by the way. With his previous girlfriend, he asked if she could join a family trip abroad before we had even met her. When we said we would like to get to know her first, it became a bigger issue because apparently he had already promised her that she could come along. He ended up bringing her to Christmas Eve as the first time that we met her. Now, I truly don't think he means to hurt anyone. He is generally kind and very family-oriented, but he can be absent and lives a bit in his own bubble. Now, a few days have passed since the birth, and my sister and I have agreed that we need to talk to him about this. We talked about starting family therapy, but she wants to talk to him before he meets the baby, so we really just don't have much time. I tried having a calm conversation with him before the birth, but he just shuts down, he gives short answers, and he simply tried to end it. So seriously, how do I approach this conversation? How do I make it clear that crossing boundaries like this isn't okay without like shutting him down? Because I'm really not sure how to go about doing this. Dude, the way your dad's doing this is so weird. Like, seriously, I know you want everyone to meet your long-distance girlfriend, but holy crap, showing up at the hospital right after your daughter gave birth is not the right time. He's probably like desperate to find some kind of time, and it's like, dude, read the room. Your daughter literally gave birth. She is not going to want to talk to anybody, especially a stranger. Like, dude, what's happening? And it sounds like the same thing happened with a vacation. It's like, dude, come on, we got to get a grip here. So maybe this is a situation where your dad just doesn't know how to plan this stuff, and he's like, oh, come on, let's just get it over with. I want you to meet my girlfriend. So maybe planning something specifically where it's like, hey, right now doesn't work, but let's plan for something in like, oh, I don't know, maybe a month or something like that, or 3 months from now, and we can all get together and have a weekend together and it'll be great. Like maybe if you divert it in a way where it's like, okay, we can't do it right now because this is a crazy time, what are you doing? But maybe if we schedule something, that will be more reasonable. Don't just show up with your girlfriend we've never met before, like this lady's a stranger. Of course the sister in this story doesn't want someone in there just staring at her being like, hi, I'm dating your dad.
bad.
Like, nah, dude, get out of here, man. I don't want to see you. So yeah, that's kind of what I would do if I was in your shoes. I would try and schedule something because clearly having a conversation with him, whether you're calm about it or not, is just simply not working. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.